He's a producer. He's essentially somebody who is the face, in my opinion, of many things Gen Z. And this is something that's really cool about him, that despite being a millennial, he appeals to a generation which is Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because he talks about some issues and he's made the country look at these issues like toxic masculinity, like mental health, and through something that he's founded, which is a social impact company, which is We Are Yuvaa. He's bringing about paradigm change. So I'm thrilled and delighted to be able to welcome somebody who has been a long time friend, but for the first time in a very long time, he's come to the organization per se. Please join me as I welcome Nikhil Taneja. How many edits did you see that we need to make?
I was actually quite like compelled. मैं तो देख रहा था ये और चलना चाहिए था, because it was so compelling. There's so much incredible work you folks have done. Well, I know some of it, but just to see it all together, it's insane, yaar. I mean, honestly, Rishabh, you guys and everyone over here are just doing some phenomenal work.
Thank
on
you.
Ground in a way.
I take the credit. These are the people who actually work.
No, but I'm saying कि the fact that you're doing it for students जो बिल्कुल ही मतलब last सोचे जाते हैं for anybody, you know, जितने भी हमारे people in power हैं, unfortunately students are really the last thing that they think about. You know, we're seeing what's happening with NEET, we're seeing what's happening overall with education in this country. So again, just phenomenal work, man.
No, thank you.
Really, really appreciate
very kind of you.
Everything you are doing.
Very kind of you, and your bio, as was written on the piece of paper out there, producer, podcaster, then you are a host, and you've done so very many things. And I was going to read out the whole thing, and I said, "Chalo, chodo, instead of reading that out, let me talk about things that actually appeal to me." Honestly, before we begin this part of it, it's not often that you can speak truth to power, especially in the country that we are in, and to be able to show them a mirror essentially is a very difficult thing, irrespective of political party. The idea that he's been able to do that on subject areas which are sometimes very sensitive.
And not gotten arrested. Very importantly.
It is difficult, and the fact that you managed to do that and managed to get everyone talking about these issues is a really big thing, and I think that's the greatest social impact that you have created. 150 schools and colleges that you went across the country and campuses across, and you created a campaign and awareness about these issues. And many of these people follow We Are Yuvaa, I'm sure, on social media. So the fact that they see you in person, I think many are nodding their heads and now smiling. So it's something that we're really looking forward to. So thank you for the time that you've taken out. You were in the middle of 100 things and you managed to find time. So
we've been wanting to do this for a while, but it's taken us some time to get here. I'm just so happy I can finally be here. Honestly, I've been a huge fan of all the work you all have been doing. Ever since Nakul told me about you, and we were on a panel, I think before that. हम CNN पे एक panel पे आए थे, if I remember right, during COVID.
I know.
And then Nakul once told me that you should meet this dear friend of mine. And then I met you for the first time in person. And then you told me a little bit more about your organization. I was blown away. I was like, man, I wish I had this kind of thing when I was a student. You know, and that's the kind of impact that I see in your work. That I know that my life would have turned out slightly more, I don't know, different, I would imagine.
No, it's a mutual fan club in that sense of what you're doing for young people through We Are Yuvaa as well. But I wanted to talk about your life.
Sure, absolutely. And I just want to say, देखो मैं यहाँ पर आप लोगों के लिए आया हूँ, ठीक है ना? ऋषभ और मैं एक दूसरे को जानते हैं, ठीक है ना? He can ask me questions, बाद में भी अलग से भी मुझे कॉल कर ही पूछ सकता है, ये मुझे क्वेश्चन है, आपसे आंसर जानना है. You are the people that I'm here for. If there are questions over here that and I've given answers and you want to have a chat about something in specific, you have a further question, please raise your hand, start speaking, let's make this interactive. That is what I find the most exciting about being able to work with, come and be in front of young people, is to actually have a question and answer with you all, to be able to speak to you, to be able to listen to you. Otherwise, मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, इसको तो मैं जानता हूँ. I am very happy to do this, but we can have our conversations even beyond this. But I really want to make sure that you all feel comfortable enough to ask anything at any point of time.
Let's do this, if you're okay. Yeah. Let them start with questions and then I will come to my questions later.
Perfect. We can do it the other way around also, so that Rishabh ने इतना prepare किया. You can ask a question, then he can ask a question. We can do it in that way.
आप प्रश्न पूछिए पहले and then I will jump in. Questions. पूछो.
Yes. आपका नाम क्या है?
Hi sir, I'm Anya.
कहाँ से हो?
I am from Mumbai, Lower Parel.
Which part of Bombay?
Lower Parel, South Mumbai. My question is, when did you think of starting VR Yuvaa and having the conversations that you do, because they're very powerful and not very easy to have in the society?
I appreciate that. I think that was also one of your questions.
Yeah, मेरे question चुरा ले ये.
Shortest way is, actually I'll tell you a fun story. I think that'll be a good way of explaining. I used to work with I worked with Hindustan Times at the beginning, then I was at MTV India, then I was at Yash Raj Films. At Yash Raj Films, I was the head of content and development for the youth division of YRF, which doesn't exist anymore. It was called Y Films at that time. And I used to head their content development. I used to produce web shows, I made a movie. और हम youth के लिए बनाते थे चीज़ें और so I used to, in my capacity as in that role, meet a lot of script writers in Bombay. Okay, they used to come and pitch their stories to me. And every मतलब 3 times a week मैं किसी ना किसी स्क्रिप्ट राइटर से मिल रहा हूँ, उनकी कहानी सुन रहा हूँ, पिच सुन रहा हूँ यूथ के लिए कि क्या कहानियाँ बनानी है. 1-1.5 महीना 2 महीने इंटू द जॉब आई रियलाइज कि सारे स्क्रिप्ट राइटर्स बॉम्बे के ना सोचते हैं कि यंग लोग 2 चीज़ें करते हैं बस. एक है लव, एक है मर्डर. यही है और कुछ नहीं करता यूथ इंडिया का. या प्यार में पड़ रहे एक दूसरे के साथ या एक दूसरे को मार रहे हैं, यू नो. एंड आई एम जस्ट लाइक मतलब I am sure that there is more to young people beyond these two. There is, right? Like, yeah, murder and love ke alawa. Exactly. And the thing is that I would get to know this because I was also, while these were my day jobs, Yash Raj, MTV, etc. So on the weekends I used to teach at a college in Mumbai. Jai Hind. Is anyone from Jai Hind over here? There is. Hi, nice to meet you. I used to teach at your college. So I was a professor of news reporting, BMM final year students. I taught for 7 years at Jai Hind and I used to, because I was not much older than the students over there at that time, तो मेरी काफ़ी दोस्ती भी हुई उन सबके साथ. And they would, I don't know, for some reason, and I feel like I've also earned their trust, they would consider me a safe space. So they would always come and speak to me about the issues that they have. We would also discuss in class. बहुत हम लोग classes में भी बहुत चीज़ें discuss करते थे. It was a very open forum. And I would say जब पहले मैं गया था ना ऋषभ in college, I had this. How many of you have seen Dead Poet Society? Anyone over here? Yeah. So I wanted to be Robin Williams. ठीक है ना. मेरे दिन में मेरी ज़िंदगी में यही था कि मुझे रॉबिन विलियम्स बनना है. मैं चाहता हूँ जब तक मैं यहाँ से ख़त्म करूँ लोग खड़े होकर बोले माई कैप्टन, ओ कैप्टन, माई कैप्टन. सो ये सोच के गया था मैं लोगों स्टूडेंट्स की ज़िंदगी बदलने वाला हूँ. अब हुआ क्या कि फर्स्ट ईयर में मेरी ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स ने ली है कि बिकॉज आई केम फ्रॉम दिस थिंग दैट आई एम गोइंग टू चेंज योर लाइफ. दे वर लाइक हु आर यू टू चेंज माई लाइफ. तुम हो कौन? Because I wanted to come in with this whole idea that I'm going to inspire you. And they're like, we don't need your inspiration. We are very smart ourselves. And I realized that, oh shit, you know, the first year for me was so terrible that I wanted to teach a second year just to undo the trauma of the first year. To give an example, I used to get, मुझे Facebook पे मैसेज आते हैं मेरे स्टूडेंट्स के who would say things like, sir, this is the way you should teach instead of this. And I was like, मेरे स्टूडेंट्स मुझे बता रहे हैं कि पढ़ाना कैसे. So anyway, but over a period of time.
जैन में कभी पढ़ाया?
2011 to 18.
I was there. I could only survive for 1 year.
Okay. I was anyway. I'm sure you didn't take up journalism, but why? Yeah, uske I basically realized after a point of time that my intention was to talk to young people, and I realized the more powerful thing to do is to listen to them. The thing that I wanted to do was teach them, and the more powerful thing that I learned was that actually I get to learn from them. And the moment I changed my perspective कि यार young लोगों से आप instead of going there with this intention मैं हूँ कुछ दिखाऊंगा आपको समझाऊंगा कुछ आपकी ज़िंदगी चेंज करूंगा. If you allow it ना they'll change your life because there's so much, you all are so much smarter, so much more thoughtful. You actually have hope about the world, you know, versus most of the old people who are just destroying it, you know, because they don't care, they don't have that hope and they don't want to care after a point of time. So you are still, you're all here, you're working with IMUN because you genuinely believe that the world is, there's possibility of change. So when my students would come to me, talk about gender issues, you know, mental health, they would talk about, you know, drugs, they would talk about all kinds of things that you would imagine young people go through, and they would come and confide in me. एंड मैं उनसे पूछता था आपने पेरेंट्स की बात की? नहीं. मैं कहता किसी और टीचर से बात की? नहीं. मैंने कहा काउंसलर से बात की? दे वुड टेल मी काउंसलर को बोला, काउंसलर ने पेरेंट को जाकर बता दिया, सो वी कांट ट्रस्ट आवर काउंसलर. सो आई रियलाइज दैट इन एडवर्टेंटली उस टाइम ये वर्ड्स नहीं होते थे कि एक सेफ स्पेस क्रिएट होगी थी हमारे क्लासरूम में. But then I didn't want only me to be the safe space, you know, because I genuinely believed that all of you can create a safe space among yourself. You don't actually need elder folks. The only thing I could do was possibly give a direction. So I started a project in my college called Kindness Project. The intention of this was that at the end of every semester, I would ask young people and say, everybody has a way of looking at you. They have a label they have in mind for you, but you are far more than that label. More than what the world judges you to be. किसी ने आपका स्किन कलर देखा है, आपके बैकग्राउंड देखा है, आपका रिलीजन देखा है, आपका क्लास देखा है, कास्ट देखा और डिसाइड कर किस रो पे आप बैठते हो, फर्स्ट रो पे, लास्ट रो पे, किस तबके से आते हो. All of these they've seen and they've judged you. And you are more than that. So I said I would want to hear your story beyond the label your classmates have given you, that you know of. And then, it was just an experiment, but it genuinely became the thing that entirely changed my life, because students started coming and just opening about things that they have never spoken to anyone in their lives. And they trusted me, and in trusting me, they trusted each other. और वो 7 साल ना ऋषि मैं तो बता नहीं सकता, the kind of stories that I've heard, the kind of things that these young people would tell me, there would always be tears, there would always be hugs. At the end of it, every classroom में एक WhatsApp chat शुरू होता था और बोलते थे, I didn't even know that you'll sit over here, I didn't even know you're a good person, I didn't know that we have so much in common. There was always this, ये तो होता ही होगा, तुम्हारे में भी होता ही होगा, कि क्या होता है कि दिल्ली के सारे लोग बॉम्बे को जज करते हैं, बॉम्बे के दिल्ली को जज करते हैं, और जो बाकी जगहों के होते हैं वो दोनों बॉम्बे और दिल्ली को जज करते हैं. तो all of this started disappearing, the boundaries started disappearing, because once you start getting to know the story of each other, you realize you have so much more in common than you are apart. And that kindness project basically changed the way I used to think about the world. It changed the way that I used to believe in what I used to think about myself, I would say. Because I think जब आप कहानियाँ सुनते हो ना, आपको अपनी कहानी भी थोड़ी ज़्यादा समझ आने लग जाती है. You start recognizing what is it about you that you find in common with the world around you. What I see of myself in Rishabh, in all of the folks over here, in many ways. And at Yashraj, I did get to try. In fact, my claim to fame actually before Yuvaa was these 4 web shows that I created at YRF, which became really, really popular back in the day. They were the first 4 out of the first 10 web series ever made in India. And I made them on issues like sex education, like gender equality, trans rights, and all of them became the most popular thing on the Indian internet at that point of time. And that proved to me कि ये जो सारी चीज़ें मैं सुन रहा हूँ ना youth से, उसके अंदर power है. Young people want to feel seen, they want to feel represented, they want to feel heard. Can I do that in a larger way? Can I do that in a platform that is dedicated to listening and having a two-way communication with students? So to be honest, I first tried to do this at Yashraj itself, because I had a platform over there. मैंने उनको बोला, can we do work on ground? I really believe that we can create a student community with young people and Yashraj. But of course, there's a different objective they had. So I decided that can I take the passion I have for entertainment and storytelling? Can I take the love and the thing that brings me most joy, which is spending time with students, bring them together as an intersection? And Yuvaa became the organization that would listen to young people. And the intersection that we started working on was something that I call the intersection of the important and the interesting. Can we make important things interesting for young people? Because if you don't do that, the interesting things end up becoming important. And that's the problem of the world we live in today. कि अभी ना सारी चीज़ें ना जो हमको इंटरेस्टिंग लगती है ना, उसी पे सब लोग टाइम स्पेंड कर रहे हैं. बट इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ों पर लोग बातें नहीं कर पा रहे. आपने वाटर की बात की कि और दैट इज अ सोशल इम्पैक्ट. हाउ मेनी पीपल इन द वर्ल्ड आर केयरिंग अबाउट वाटर वर्सेस हाउ मेनी पीपल केयर अबाउट a new trend that has started on a new reel trend that has started on Instagram, right? So how do we make people care about these issues, but in a way that the storytelling first, entertainment first, and makes them is accessible in the language of the youth? That was 8 years ago, and now we are here with someone I deeply respect and all of you incredible people.
How lovely. But you're talking about...
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I just want to say I love तालियाँ. तो अगर आप कर रहे हो तो मैं बुरा नहीं मानूंगा, ठीक है? तो ऐसे हेजिटेटिंग नहीं मत करना, अच्छे से करना, ठीक है ना? मुझे अच्छा लगता है, मुझे मैं और encourage होता हूँ.
You spoke about trends and you spoke about creating a place for young people to voice their opinions. आजकल इसको BR युवा तो बोलते हैं, but it's also called cockroach जनता पार्टी.
Absolutely. In 1 week, man, क्या कर बैठे हैं वो लोग?
Millions of followers.
20 million.
What is your take on Cockroach Janata Party? क्या लगता है
आपको? इतना ही है. No, in fact, there's a video of mine going live at 4 o'clock about this only. Take is very simple, you know. I think there is two kinds of people. I mean, everybody has two kinds of takes on it on the internet. One who thinks that यही है revolution लाएगा, और दूसरे जो बोल रहे हैं कि यार नहीं ऑनलाइन हमने बहुत सारी movements देखे हैं that don't translate to offline, so let's beware, let's not take it too seriously. What I can see, and the thing that I think this is government agnostic. I think this is about power. That for so long have the students of our country been ignored. For so long have we not cared about their frustrations, their anxieties, their pain. अब कितनी मतलब, and I'm not just talking about, you know, NEET exam. I'm not just talking about, you know, the railway exams. I'm not talking about just the long lines and all the unemployment. I'm also talking about the value of a human life, and which is young. आप कितने नोएडा के अंदर खड्डे के अंदर कोई लड़का चला रहा है गाड़ी, वो गिर गया वहाँ पर. What has happened about that? गुड़गांव के अंदर देर इज बारिश हुई है, कोई ओपन मैनहोल में गिर के मर गया, 23-24 year old. Who is talking about that? You know, we have seen drunk drivers in Gujarat, you know, killing other young people, you know, and nothing, and in one day they get bail. This is the value of an average young person in our country. Of course, this is also the value of overall, I feel. But because young people have less power, because they don't have that access to money or access to resources, उनको तो सबसे कम respect दी जाती है हमारी society.
Correct.
And that is, and I feel like CJP is just an example of how irritated they are, how frustrated they are, and if they actually come together, what is possible. 20 million in 1 week. In 1 week, it's unheard of numbers, man. They have surpassed all our parties. They surpassed some of the biggest parties in the world.
They surpassed the biggest party in the world also.
Exactly.
But the only thing is, many say that this is politically motivated. It is charged the AAP.
It can't be, na. Dekho, see, iska, I'll tell you what. Whatever is the background behind it. Of course, Abhijit is an ex-AAP person. He is studying political science in
the US.
In the US. He's also a Dalit, so he obviously has, you know, he's faced marginalization that is very harsh in our country. So yes, there is a certain kind of background, there is a certain kind of liberal POV, but it is satire, it is parody, it is AI slop, it is memes, and that is why the young people are joining it, because for the first time someone is communicating with them in their language. और उनको यही चाहिए यार, कोई हमको समझो तो सही, आप तो हमसे बात ही नहीं कर रहे हो. कोई एक कह रहा है कि मुझे तुम्हारे इश्यूज दिखते हैं. द फैक्ट इट्स यू नो, वी कैन मेक एज मच फन ऑफ इट, बट द फैक्ट दैट द फ्रस्ट्रेशन केम कि हाउ कैन वन ऑफ द मोस्ट रिस्पेक्टेड पोजिशंस इन आवर कंट्री कॉल यंग पीपल कॉकरोचेस. अब मतलब दैट इज द वे. मैं वही कह रहा हूँ ना, जो वैल्यू हमारी कंट्री में स्टूडेंट लाइफ की है, यूथ यंग लाइफ की है, वो इतनी कम हो चुकी है. अब ऐसा कुछ भी बोल के चले जाते हो. कोलकाता के अंदर व्हेन दे द कॉलेज के अंदर व्हेन देयर वाज अ रेप ऑफ अ यंग वुमन, what was, you know, there was someone in power who basically said that रात को, you know, why was she working at night? A doctor, why was the doctor working at night in a hospital? That is what is being said right now. So my point is, yeah, how much, these are all microaggressions, but the fact is, if the way young life is treated in our country, these add up. And what you're seeing, the 20 million people that you're seeing today, which is going to go into 30, 40, 50 also very, very soon, is this anger. It is this कि हम कितने टाइम तक, how much time, for how much time will we be taken for granted? At least we are being seen today. Now what it leads to, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't lead to anything. Maybe it leads to a complete and utter revolution that India has never seen before. Maybe I'm mostly it's going to be something in between. We all know that, right? उससे इतने एक्सट्रीम में जाता भी नहीं.
ट्विटर पे तो बैन कर दिया उनको.
कर भी दिया यार. But the point is, every party should take notice that young people are feeling abandoned, and the fact that there are, in 1 week you are able to mobilize 20 million people together. If this is a sustained effort, आप सोचो कितना youth join कर सकता है इसको. And you have missed out the opportunity. They are joining because you are not able to see and understand their issues. And that's what I'm saying. I believe it is party agnostic. Of course, this one has a very liberal bent. But I genuinely feel, which party can you take? कोई भी स्टेट इंडिया के उठा के ले लो, कौन कर रहा है यूथ एम्प्लॉयमेंट में काम, कौन कर रहा है यूथ एम्पावरमेंट में काम. How many can you genuinely claim and say कि यार they are doing such great work on youth? अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट इज एवरीवेयर. मैं हर कैंपस में जा चुका हूँ, 150 कैंपसेस में जा चुका हूँ ऋषभ. 34 इंडियन सिटीज आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट. द नंबर वन एंग्जाइटी दैट यंग पीपल हैव इज मुझे जॉब मिलेगी. एंड अगेन द वर्ल्ड इज चेंजिंग, एआई आ रहा है वगैरह वगैरह. हमने क्या किया एज अ कंट्री टू बी एबल टू अडेप्ट टू दैट? वी हैव ऑलरेडी मिस्ड द बोट ऑन बीइंग यू नो फर्स्ट इन द एआई वर्ल्ड. हम लोग डेटा सेंटर्स क्रिएट करें, अल्टीमेटली फिर वही है ना, हमारा क्या रहेगा, हमारा तो बॉटम मोस्ट you know layer of jobs is going to be given to Indians. Is that the world and future we want to see for our students? So I mean I find this to be really, I feel like this is a really powerful thing. I don't know what is going to come out of it, but I do feel like we should stop and take notice.
It's on record that you are a cockroach then.
I am, you know, I would say I'm an ally
to the cockroaches. Okay,
you know?
Great.
Until I see the politics of this after a point of time, I don't want to commit to being a cockroach, but I'm definitely an ally of any student movement that is talking about wanting a better world to students. That is the way I will say it.
Which is why you are at IIM, I guess.
Absolutely,
But,
absolutely.
But other questions that we have, Kushal?
Hi sir.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here today.
आप कहाँ से हो?
I'm from Mumbai, myself Kushal.
Where are you from in Bombay?
Sion.
Okay, amazing.
So sir, my question is, you believe that, no offense in the question.
Oh wow! Anytime someone says no offense, I know that it is meant to offend, but go on.
Yeah. But you believe that boys shouldn't cry. Like boys should cry. Boys should express their
Yes.
feelings. They should express their anxieties.
Yes.
But if we see the current generation, the generation has become very kooky. The boys have become really soft.
Okay.
If we see in the past, Anil Kumble had a jaw fracture and then also he put a plaster around his neck and he played cricket.
Correct.
But Shubman Gill had a neck spasm and he did not play 3-4 matches.
Okay.
It only shows that the generation is becoming weaker day by day by day. So how can we keep on pushing forward this narrative of boys?
I
being
love
soft?
that question, and I'm so glad you're asking me this question, because you know I wish these questions would come to me in public. Let me ask you the other way around, right? Why do you think that Kumble at that point of time, and I'm saying it's great, we have all seen that it was an incredible feat and it is something that has inspired generations after that. I completely agree. ऐसे बहुत सारे sporting moments होते हैं where people are kind of go beyond, you know. Sachin Tendulkar के पापा मरे थे, अगले दिन आके उन्होंने किया, and we have documented another incident recently where someone's parent died and they chose not to come, you know. Someone's had a child and they chose to be with the child. Now my question to you is, of course he's giving something for the world, but how do we know that Anil Kumble has given himself that kind of time to take care of himself, the kind of person he should have been at that moment? अभी हमारा वो चला गया and things were okay. What if that injury was so grievous that had he not been to the hospital at that point of time, something would have happened to his job permanently? We don't know. He took that call and that's incredible. But how many times have we seen, you know, men taking decisions like this in our own lives that lead to, मैं अपने पापा की बात कर सकता हूँ. I lost my dad last year. He's had diabetes, you know, and he's had diabetes for years and years, which he did not take care of, you know, because he always felt like doing work was more important than taking care of himself. He had an accident. The accident led to a brain hemorrhage, which actually got okay. The reason he died was because diabetes, uski papa ki kind of led to things in his bodies because of which he couldn't recover. So he didn't die of the accident, he actually died of the diabetes because he stopped taking care of himself. And that's the thing, and you talk to every man of a certain age, every man of the previous generation, I don't know if it's true in your home, but in so many homes that I know of, you know, men have taken up domestic violence, you know, they have been abusive to their children, they have taken up alcoholism, you know, in the worst case is sexual violence. Why is that? Because nobody has ever given them an opportunity to say you are enough, you can take care of yourself. आपको नहीं ज़रूरत है किसी और की एम्पैथी के लिए, आप अपने आप को तो एम्पैथी दो. आदमियों के पास अपने आप के लिए एम्पैथी नहीं होती, इसलिए वो किसी और के लिए एम्पैथी भी नहीं दिखा सकते. एंड दैट इज़ द रीज़न वाई आफ्टर अ पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम यू इधर डेटोनेट. दैट डेटोनेशन हैपन्स थ्रू एंगर, थ्रू अब्यूज, थ्रू वायलेंस, or through anxiety, or through depression, or through suicide. Why is the rate of suicide of young men so much more than young women in this country? The reason because the pressures on young men are so much, and they don't have spaces to be able to talk about this pressure too, because of narratives like this. अरे अनिल कुंबले ने तो जाकर कर दिया, तू क्यों नहीं कर सकता? यही तो narrative है. अरे वो कर सकता है तो तू क्यों नहीं कर सकता? तेरा बाप कर सकता है, तू क्यों नहीं कर सकता? I am saying great that Shubman Gill took time off for himself, and he's still the captain of the Indian team. And I'm 100% sure he's going to continue being an incredible player. I'm 100% sure that he's going to set records. But even if he doesn't, as long as he lives a life where he is able to take care of himself, the people around him, and do, cricket and any sport should not be done only for these moments. It should be done because you love that sport. And as long as you're playing the sport with the love for it, with the enjoyment for it, with the passion for it, I don't think you need to constantly prove yourself in this capacity. I don't know, does this answer your question at all?
But it's about building perseverance, right? If a boy faces a situation and the society it's all about the society. If the society tells him, theek hai, ho jata hai, that kid, that boy on the other end won't learn how to deal with the situation. He won't learn how to deal with the challenge.
Okay, let me ask you a simple question. ठीक है ना, तो ये तुम मानते हो कि लड़कियां रोती हैं? They are able to express. Yes. Tell me the name of a strong woman that you can think of. Do you think she did not persevere? बस फिर जब लड़कियां रोती हैं फिर भी persevere कर सकती हैं, तो लड़के रोक के persevere नहीं कर सकते? It's really as simple as that. These are narratives, bhai. The narrative is, unfortunately, the narrative in our world that has set is you can either be this or that. You can't be both. But who says that? Why can't you be both? Of course you can be both. I am someone who believes in expressing myself. I'm someone who's very expressive, and I'm running a very profitable youth company. We are a for-profit youth company. We work with every brand in this country. Every celebrity has come and spoken to us. We constantly, personally also I also get, at this point of time, enough money. I want to be honest about that. I get enough money for the work that I do. I'm doing well, I'm successful. I compare my life to the engineers who I was with when I was doing computer engineering at NIT Kurukshetra. And they've gone to Amazons of the world, the Googles of the world, Microsofts of the world. My life in any way and every way I look at it is better than them. I've been able to set up a company that is widely respected. I've been able to become a name who is, in all humility, widely respected. And I'm still someone who's able to give time to my daughter and show her that I am a strong man who can cry. When my father passed away and I had a daughter at the same time, I was able to cry in front of her. She was just a baby. She would still look at me very concerned. But that didn't stop me from crying in front of her, because I don't want for her to ever think that strong men don't cry. Of course they can cry, and yet they can be strong. I have persevered the death of my father to be here today. I have persevered a lot of challenges, mental health, anxiety, all kinds of things that happen even in entrepreneurship. Rishabh would know, it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. But I'm here. I want to prove to the world that genuinely you can care about the world and still have a successful life, have a profitable company, make sure every employee of yours is well off, and you can be an example for being a good, decent person outside. You don't need to necessarily be a person who is sacrificing, who is injuring himself, who is showcasing to the world that there's only one way of being a man. You can be any kind of a man. As long as you're a good person, that's enough. That's what I believe. Does this answer your question? Does it? Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. But I really appreciate you asking this question, because ये बहुत लोग सोचते हैं कि it's a choice. It doesn't have to be, मेरे भाई. It's not a choice. You can be both. You can take care of yourself. You can be someone who cares about your feelings and the feelings of the people around you. And you can, on days when it's required, you can be the person getting out with a broken jaw and do that feat that you have done. All of us will do that at some point, and the women also do it. They just don't necessarily put out this idea of कि यार I only have this or that choice. Serena Williams ले लो, Venus Williams ले लो, two of the strongest women in this world champions, and they are completely comfortable talking about their pregnancies. They're comfortable about their body changing. They're comfortable about the anger that they face from the world. Any strong woman that you can take in current times is not allowing. Naomi Osaka, she won like all of these incredible championships and said that I want to take a mental health break. And that was incredible. Virat Kohli, who is by far the best batsman in our country, in a very long time after Sachin, he is the one. He has gone on record to say that I have gone through depression and it's taken me time to get out of it. But that doesn't make him lesser a man. The fact that he's choosing today to not be in India and be in London, and people make a lot of fun for him. But London is a place where he can raise his family without getting mobbed anywhere he goes. And that's what he wants for his family. And yet he's such an incredible batsman. Yet he does not, in his at what age he is at this point of time, he's still some of the top batsmen in the IPL. 21-22 साल के बच्चे उससे compete नहीं कर पा रहे. Why? Because he's just good at what he does. And I can promise you one thing: if you are a full human being, if you are actually able to give time to your family, to your wife, to your children, and to yourself, you will actually also be a lot more focused and determined with the work that you do. After my daughter has been born, I am actually performing better at my job versus when I was before, because I'm so focused कि मुझे सिर्फ 6 घंटे में अच्छा काम करना है, क्योंकि शाम को जाके मुझे उसके साथ खेलना है. So the time that I would have earlier spent, actually I value it more. I don't want to waste that because my daughter is so important.
I'm glad you shared, and you are a great example of being successful after being so vocal about the issues that you are facing. आपने जो कहानी बताई, and thanks Kushal for asking that question.
No, it's a very good question. I'm really glad you asked.
Yeah, and that also, like you said, publicly to ask the question, it is tough. But like you mentioned about Virat also, of course, today speaks about depression, mental health, etc. But he showed up after his dad passed away.
Yeah.
And therefore, what you said is that it's right perhaps to take a day off and to recover. If, say, for example, you are facing depression and if you think that, you are not somebody who is in the fit mental state in order to perform.
Correct.
But it could also mean, from what he was asking, it could also mean that it is okay perhaps in order to be in that position like Anil Kumble was, or perhaps like Virat was when he was 19, and then perform the next day. So
the idea, I don't think it's a choice. मुझे वही लगता है कि हम लोग ना इन चीज़ों को इतना reductive बना देते हैं ना कि या तो आप ये हो या आप वो हो. I truly believe you can be all of it. There are going to be days where you will choose your work, and there are going to be days where you choose yourself, and both should not have judgment.
Correct.
That actually is genuinely what masculinity should be.
Correct.
There are days, but that awareness कि this is a choice. It's the awareness of feminism की बात करते हैं, and I'll just it's a very vast thing, but I'm going to try to reduce it. There is ultimately what feminism does. It allows women to choose. You can choose to provide, or you can choose to be a nurturer. You can choose to have kids, or you can choose to just do your job, or you can choose to do both, but it's a choice. Correct. That has not been afforded to women because of patriarchy for several decades. But it is a choice, and that is what feminism is trying to teach all genders ideally, but women specifically, कि आपको नहीं सोचना कि आपके पास ऑप्शन ही नहीं है ना ऑप्शन.
करेक्ट.
आदमियों को बट ये बोला जाता है कि आप सिर्फ प्रोवाइडर हो सकते हो, आप सिर्फ परसिवियर कर सकते हो, आप सिर्फ काम पे बेस्ट हो सकते हो, आपको सैक्रिफाइस करना है, आपको दुनिया के लिए बर्डन उठाने, आपको अपने बर्डन उठाने,
तो उनको चॉइस देना है.
एग्जैक्टली, दे डोंट इवन हैव द चॉइस टू थिंक दैट मैं नर्चर भी हो सकता हूँ.
But what the choice that they make essentially, and the society that they want to see, somebody would want to see perhaps an Anil Kumble type of society that is there, and like you said that, and some would want to choose a Virat Kohli style where he's in London per se, and like what
as
you said
is, as long as you have the awareness of this choice.
Agency देना है बस.
Agency. Correct. But agency होनी चाहिए भाई.
But ये masculinity और feminism पे आपने जो बात की, at the end of the day, aren't all of these concepts just constructs of the human mind? Because at the end of the day, tattvam asi aham brahmasi, that is I am that. Essentially in Indian culture and Indian context, क्योंकि ये बात हुई है, technically Ardhanarishwar was half male and half female. But gender is something that is any which way a construct of the 21st century, is a construct of Western thought. We have believed in no gender being there, and therefore feminine and masculine is essentially the same, which is one soul, anikantvad, which is unity per se. So the idea that there is so much of emphasis on, and it's good.
There is, I hear your question, and
so
I want to tell you.
Let me just finish.
Finish.
वो इसमें कि why is the conversation so much about masculinity or feminism? आप बोल रहे हो सही है, because it's been so many years where women have not been given a choice and so on and so forth, and men have been only fed one narrative. But should there also not be, and because this question came up, should there not be also the conversation on seeing everything from how we originally perceived it, which is the concept of Ardhanarishwar, which is
वही है यार. अब देखो, I can't speak to what was originally conceived because the society does not look like that anymore. And that is the issue. What you're saying is beautiful, and I wish and pray everyone can think like you, but everyone doesn't think like you. And more importantly, this power structures they live in don't think like you. अपने घर के अंदर power structure होता है. आप सबसे पहले आपके patriarchy, आपके पापा का power structure होता है. He's the man of the house. Very few. I'm not saying every home has that, but most homes in India, you would agree, most homes in India have men as the people running the homes.
Of course.
Now they have been taught. Again, I'm not saying that they are doing it out of their own choice. They've been taught. They've been conditioned to believe कि as the man of the house आपको provide करना है और औरत को जो आपकी wife है उनको आपकी सेवा करना है. That has been, और आपको बच्चों को पालना नहीं है, वो बच्चे पालेंगे but उनके लिए पैसा लेकर आना है. This has happened to me. This has happened to so many other people. Ideally, men and women should be equal. Should have equal division of labor at home. They should have equal division of labor for the child they're bringing, and equal labor of division for the money that you're bringing in. But that is not the world that we have grown up in. That is not the world we live in. The oppressions of caste, the oppressions of gender, the oppressions of color, the oppressions of class in our society are so much that these are beautiful concepts to live by personally. If you have the privilege, these are beautiful concepts to read in newspaper, in books and literature and hopefully even our religious texts. But in practicality, यार कितना exist करता है. और चक्कर ये हम ये बातें इसलिए करते हैं ताकि जिन लोगों को पता भी नहीं ना इसके बारे में, उनको पता तो चले ना कि आपके पास एजेंसी है. But the problem, and I'll tell you why you are asking this question also, the problem is, unfortunately, because there is, when you talk about a certain concept, you again reduce the person or that concept only to that one thing that you kind of hear. You don't think in terms of the entirety of what was trying to be said in society. Nobody, feminism at no point, masculinity at no point, you can take any feminist text across, you can take my own show where it comes from masculinity. At no point are we saying that men cannot be strong, men should not be perseverant, men should not go to the gym. कुछ नहीं ऐसा बोल रहे भाई. हम कह रहे हैं कि आप
बाइनरीज तो स्प्लिट हो गए इन द रीसेंट पास्ट. बाइनरी तो कभी थे ही नहीं. दैट 1001 दैट वी स्टार्ट सीइंग द वर्ल्ड इन इज नॉट आवर कांसेप्ट ओनली.
बट आप जितना भी पीछे चले जाओ यार, आप तुम यू नो वेदर इट इज द टाइम 1800s की बात कर लो, 1700 की बात कर लो, आप कास्ट को ही उठा लो यार. आई मीन द थिंग इज दैट आवर सोसाइटी हैज ऑलवेज हैड, every society, it's not just Indian society, okay,
has had an oppression
has been, power, jahan power hai wahan oppression hai.
The reason why religion is created, caste creed is created, is so that people get more divided and therefore it's easier to control. That is, there's no question about it.
But and gender is like that also.
But gender,
exactly like that.
Gender mein wahi main khali aapko, the thing is that biologically there is of course, and you know, the Trumpian worldview is very different. And the Indian worldview is very different. But when it comes to, before I go on to the biology, the fact that we are not a patriarchal society, as of today we've become a patriarchal society, but we've always been a matrilineal society. Everybody traces themselves back to one African lady in East Africa 150,000 to 200,000 years ago. What's essentially happened is, technically, in the human being, in your cells, there is the nucleus, as you know, and the nucleus comes from both the father and the mother. 50% father, 50% mother. Sometimes percentages differ, and this is in regards to your characteristics, the way you look, your eyes, etc., etc. And the second is the mitochondria. The mitochondria comes from the mother, and it comes, so technically you are a reflection of your mom, and you are not a reflection of your dad in that sense.
Absolutely.
And
I read this beautiful thing recently that actually when,
and therefore so just to finish this is that it is so जो वंश हम जब बात करते हैं, वंश आगे करने के लिए पुरुष होना चाहिए, वो तो है नहीं. वो the very thought that it is going from the mother to the child, and it's going from the grandmother to the mother. So the idea that in society it is a matrilineal society. So I'm not disputing the fact that the biology of it, is so irrefutable. But what also is the biology of it is that men have been hunter-gatherers.
That is not true. And that is what I'm saying. No, it's not true.
How is it not?
Archaeological evidence that this is, see, history is written by the victors. Okay, archaeologically there is evidence, and literally as recently as last week there have been remains found of tribes that go where the women are the hunters. ये देखो वही है ना, होता क्या है ना, at some point in time, see there is some, essentially, and you know, there is a certain kind of testosterone that men have, you know. Again, we have a little bit more understanding about what, because of periods, women's bodies do. Now we have that understanding. But एडोलेसेंट के अंदर टेस्टोस्टेरोन की वजह से आदमियों का क्या होता है वो हमको इतनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है, बिकॉज वी नेवर लुक एट बॉयज फ्रॉम दैट एंगल ऑफ एम्पैथी. We don't look that it is also difficult for young boys to kind of grow up as adolescents. It's not easy, you know.
Testosterone की आपने बात की. Testosterone again is, and this is of course whether it's behaved by Sapolsky or whichever neurobiologist or whoever is speaking about this, the idea essentially when you talk about testosterone, we always think testosterone gives way to heated aggression. That is what is testosterone associated to.
Correct.
But testosterone is not necessarily pushing only the aggression. If you're a very mild-mannered person, testosterone actually does not impact you as much biologically. So, आप जो बात कर रहे हैं, you know that of course, if there is new evidence that is found that you know women were also hunter-gatherers, and there's a possibility. Razia Sultan से उसके पहले, you know, there are so many examples in India across the world. But the idea that if 70%, if 70% earlier, do you agree that 70% of the men were hunter-gatherers and say 30% were women, or do you think
perhaps I'm not, I would say I don't know enough about this.
So do you think that there are certain skills or there are certain things that men, there are gender specific roles that of course should be, agency should be given, and only basis agency essentially then the decision should be taken. But the fact that today, in today's day and age, we celebrate a woman like Kalpana Chawla, we celebrate a Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, we celebrate a Smriti Mandana, and it's a very good thing. And I believe that we must celebrate them.
Of course.
But at the same point in time, and this is what I spoke at Barkha's show with a woman, I said, I also equally respect my mother, who chose to be a homemaker. And
Central.
Correct.
Absolutely.
But the only thing is, we should also, in all the episodes that get covered of women who are breaking the glass ceiling, who are doing something extraordinary, where is the story of the homemaker who's sacrificing everything at home, who's sitting in so why are we showing it only from one lens?
No, but it's not from one lens. How do I say this in the best way that everyone gets it? Like the thing is, what your mother today is saying that she chose. Actually, I don't know about your mother, but I would promise for every mother, you actually sit and listen to your mother's story, you realize it's not really chosen. It was how it was meant to be. Nobody, I mean, at that point of time, when now there is conversation about choice, women were supposed to do this. They were supposed, and yet the most interesting thing that is always mind-blowing to me, women are the one who make your food initially at home. You are the ones, but सारे top जितने भी top chefs हैं दुनिया के आदमी हैं. तो अगर आप बोल रहे हो कि औरतों का एक certain kind of काम that work is gendered, then how is it that?
No, I'm not saying work is gendered.
No,
I'm saying agency should be given.
But मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, agency नहीं मिलती ना यार, कहाँ मिलती है? मेरे पापा की, अगर तू अपने पापा की बात कर, मेरे पापा की बात करो.
बट ये सेलिब्रेशन जो हम लोग मेरा प्रश्न ये है ही नहीं. मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ कि हम लोग सेलिब्रेशन जो कर रहे हैं कि वी आर सेलिब्रेटिंग पीपल who are outliers, who are doing exemplary work, and that's a great thing, Nikhil. I admire it. But what I'm saying is, then an entire generation is growing up saying that, you know, we have to break the glass ceiling in every space, but when we do something at home, and there's so many kids who work at the organization, and then, you know, they choose saying that, what if there is a more traditional, typical setup? Then now we've created a society in which कोई बोले कि मैं घर पे बैठ के मैं you know, I'm taking care of my children. That is sometimes not looked at in the best way possible. Saying, अच्छा तुम क्या कर रहे हो? तुम घर पे बैठ के बच्चों का ध्यान रख रहे हो? ये तो पति को भी करना चाहिए था. So what I'm saying
is, you're talking about utopia. See, basically what you're talking about genuinely, Rishabh, is utopia. Utopia के अंदर क्या होना चाहिए ना कि every man, every woman, anybody of any gender should get the decision, the agency, the choice to be able to live how they want.
Correct.
Unfortunately, in the practical world we live in, we're not afforded that choice. अब मैं तुम्हें अपना example दे रहा हूँ, ठीक है ना? I've just had a child. My wife has been given 6 months of leave, you know, by her Citibank, which is her organization. Now it's my own company, तो मैंने 3 महीने paternal leave लिए. At the same time, how much is the government of India giving for? Do you know how much the government of India gives as maternity leave versus paternity leave officially? 15 days is the paternity leave. How much is the maternity leave? 6 months. 6 months is government mandated maternity leave. 2 weeks is government mandated paternity leave. What does this tell you? I will explain what it tells you. What it tells you first is that the government of India, and I'm saying most governments in the world, so it's not just about our country, okay? Most governments in the world decide दैट आदमियों को ना अपने बच्चों में बॉन्डिंग करने की जरूरत नहीं है. बच्चे पैदा कर दिया, पीवी को दे दो, जाओ काम पे. Really, isn't that what we are saying right now? If you are saying, and I'm not saying that women should get less, they should get exactly 6 months, because 9 months they've kept a child inside of them. Giving birth is the most difficult thing that any human being can do. I've seen my wife go through it. Nothing a man can do compares to what childbirth looks like, right? They need that time to recover. So yes, they deserve it. They deserve that break. They deserve the time that they will have to nurture their child. At the same time, when you tell a man you don't actually get any time with your children, only 2 weeks के बाद तुम्हें काम पर जाना है, तुम्हें bonding बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है. सुनो. And then the other thing, and what you're also saying is कि हेलो मैम, आपने बच्चा दिया है 2 हफ्ते पहले, अब 2 हफ्ते आपका हस्बैंड आपके पास है, अब गया वो काम पर, गवर्नमेंट ने डिसाइड कर लिया वो नहीं बैठ सकते तुम्हारे साथ, तो यू नाउ हैव टू ऑल्सो टेक केयर ऑफ द चाइल्ड. 9 months you have kept the child inside of you. 2 weeks of rest you'll get. Now get ready to take care of the child. Your husband is gone, but you have time. And now if the government mandates that, अब हस्बैंड क्या बोलेगा कि हाँ मेरे को तो काम करना पड़ रहा है ना, मुझे नहीं छुट्टी मिल रही है.
बट ये डिस्प्यूट कोई कर ही नहीं रहा है. दिस फैक्ट नोबडी इज डिस्प्यूटिंग दैट दे आर.
दिस इज द सोसाइटी. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट दिस इज टू बी डिस्प्यूटेड. आई एम सेइंग यस, यू एंड आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट एज पीपल हु हैव. देखो तुमने कितना ट्रैवल किया दुनिया में, तुम्हारी कितनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, बिकॉज यू सीन वर्ल्ड एंड प्लेसेस एंड सोसाइटीज वेयर पीपल हैव दिस नॉलेज. When I go to campus, 150 campuses I've gone to, every campus के अंदर the gendered issues that boys come up with and girls come up with, they are very very visible. यार.
What you're saying is very true. I'm not disagreeing to any of this. मैं क्या खाली आपको बताना चाह रहा हूँ, saying आपने जो बोला utopia should be there.
Correct.
What is happening is if a generation grows up with the empowerment, that saying that before understanding what agency actually is, and if they see that this is the glass ceiling that I have to break, then it becomes such that families today, between the 1990s and 2026, families used to be India's a familial setup. Today we become a nuclear setup.
Sure.
Nuclear is going to become more individualistic. Individualistic will then, as America and the West have shown, it's going to fragment and then you'll have to come back to the familial setup.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing, 6 महीना नहीं. I तो believe that it should be the agenda of the cockroach party that we should essentially have not 6 months
if
each.
If they make that agenda, I'll join them.
But we should have 9 months each, perhaps given in terms to both the men and the women.
Correct.
मैं खाली क्या बोलना चाहता हूँ is that perhaps the generation also must be, the awareness must come about saying that look, my mom sacrificed, perhaps not out of choice, like say a Swati Piramal who out of privilege could choose, or say my mother out of privilege could choose, or somebody else could out of privilege choose. But today, out of the privilege of empowerment that social media has given me, I should also have the knowledge that look, I can also make a choice to stay back at home and take care of my children.
But may I ask, why do you think they don't think this already?
No, because there is, like I said, out of the 10 people that are profiled on a show, okay, and Barkha, whom I greatly admire.
Correct.
On We the Women, everybody is speaking about, look, we are now a woman soldier, we are a woman astronaut, we are so and so. Where is the homemaker? My question in this is, each profile is important, both for man and for woman. And there was a young girl, political science student from St. Xavier's College.
भाई मैं तो को यही मुझे समझ आ गया तुम्हारा कुछ सवाल. अब मुझे तुम बताओ, तुम
पर मुझे पूछना तो
I'll give you answer. I know what you're getting at. Okay, so I'll tell you. तुम अपने leadership series में सिर्फ लोगों जो सक्सेस होते हैं उनको क्यों बुलाते हो?
फेलियर्स को भी बुलाते, और हम लोग जो फेलियर्स होते हैं उनसे प्रश्न पूछते.
बट फेलियर मतलब हाउ डू यू डिसाइड समवन इज अ फेलियर?
A person who is not successful or deemed successful by society at large. Like for example, now if a person comes out here and we talk to them, we don't only talk to them about successes.
No, but you're talking, the reason that they're here for the first thing is because they're well known, right?
So are you saying that a person who's a homemaker is not a successful person?
No, but that's what I'm saying. मैं उल्टा बोल रहा हूँ, मैं तुम्हारे इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बता रहा हूँ.
नहीं, आप मुझे उसके लिए तो मैं प्रश्न पूछ
रहा हूँ. मैं समझा रहा हूँ. Let me explain this in this equation, right? There is the reason you are able. I'm talking about, चल तुम्हारा छोड़ दो, तुम किसी भी TEDx को ले लो, कोई भी TEDx, तुम्हारे कॉलेजेस में TEDx हुए हैं. अभी ये लोग सोच रहे हैं हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पर, हम तो किसी और चीज़ के लिए ये लास्ट करके खत्म करते हैं. We'll go back to you. TEDx के अंदर आप जितने भी TEDx ले लो पूरे कंट्री के अंदर, स्टूडेंट्स जहाँ भी होंगे, every TEDx के अंदर the reason to get somebody in the TEDx is someone who's inspiring. I have gone to all of these campuses and I have asked these questions in these TEDx's and I have asked these questions to the students over here. Don't you think there are people around you who are students around you who also deserve this platform? are you saying that there is no student in your campus who deserves to be on this stage, who has not gone through something incredible and persevered in their life to get to where they are, who have overcome some sort of poverty, who have overcome some sort of injustice, who have found a way of getting, who might be the first person in their family to get education, who might be first person in the family to get college. Why are you not seeking those examples? Why? Because the world narrative of the world is कि the only people you want to hear, the reason all of these people want to hear me or you today is because हमारा काम हमारी बात कर चुका है कि इन्होंने काम किया, उन्होंने कुछ बन गए तो मुझे सुनना वैल्यूएबल है, और जो नहीं बने उनको सुनना वैल्यूएबल नहीं है. इट्स द सेम थिंग अनफॉर्चुनेटली, एंड आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट्स अ गुड थिंग, आई एम सेइंग इट्स द सेम थिंग अनफॉर्चुनेटली.
That's my question. So why a homemaker essentially is not a person who's deemed successful.
Yes, agreed. Unfortunately.
वो change करना चाहिए ना narrative. Do you agree that?
Of course,
हाँ, वही खाली वही बोल रहा हूँ कि वो narrative हम लोग ने change कर लिया.
I'm explaining why we are profiling the people who are breaking the glass ceiling.
Correct.
Because there is no otherwise कोई you won't know that this is possible. The reason TEDx पे बुलाते हैं ये सारे successful लोग, so that the young people actually know this is possible. आप यहाँ पर भी पहुँच सकते हो, यहाँ भी पहुँच सकते हो, यहाँ भी पहुँच सकते हो.
Possibility तो हमने वही तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ, possibility in the last 20 years इतनी possibility, and it should be even more so. We should have a microbiologist who's successful from the country. We should have an astrophysicist, and we should celebrate that. But in that choices that we are showing, somehow we are forgetting the normal choices that a human being made, which is why evolution took place the way it did in our country vis-a-vis the West, where it was a fragmented society, and the problems of the fragmentation of society came about because individualism and feminism then suddenly had a very different connotation in the West, and that has led to a lot of the fall of the West in terms of a societal mindset. So that is what I'm trying to say, that that is perhaps the fabric of our country that we should also try to protect as much as empowerment should be done. But this can be a conversation that can go on. Thanks to Kushal who's triggered the thought.
But I'll conclude by saying I do not think that our country, in fact, सोचो हमारी country के अंदर इन्होंने इंदिरा गांधी का example दिया है. We've had a female prime minister much before, female president much before US had.
I agree.
So we have always had that understanding. Having said that, the on ground, unfortunately, Rishabh, even today, and I would imagine this is also true in all the lives of the young people over here. If you ask all the young women over here, do you get all kinds of freedom that the men in your life, the boys in your life get from your parents?
Not necessary.
Exactly. And it's the same thing. But if you ask the boys, do you get to exactly decide what you want to be in life, or do your parents have? It's not. It's the same thing.
Because it's a patriarchal society. Correct. But the generation millennials में आप देख लो, नकुल को आप पूछोगे saying, do you give Sufi? Yeah. Or do you give your daughter the same privileges?
But we have to do better. No, that's the whole point.
We are doing better, and I'm saying millennials are doing better. But when we are rewriting the rules, are we going from one extreme to the other extreme, or is there a moderation in thought that we should have? Is what I was saying. But anyways, Indira Gandhi's example, and you gave the example. Indira Gandhi, just for general knowledge, you already know, but in the emergency, when she was...
You're not talking about the emergency, you're talking about before the emergency.
When she was during the emergency, the issue of she was not listening to anybody during the emergency, but then there was a guy called Jiddu Krishnamurti, and Jiddu Krishnamurti was a philosopher.
I think she was also doing this so that she can prove that a woman can also be a dictator just like men can.
मुझे point तो खत्म कर दे. When Jiddu, she was not listening to anybody per se, and Krishnamurti was one person that she really admired. Krishnamurti is this philosopher who spoke about abstract truths such as this, saying, and the utopia that we spoke about. And she went to Krishnamurti and she asked Krishnamurti, saying, emergency lift nahi ho rahi hai because it's my ego essentially that is coming in the way. Yeah. And then he confronted and he spoke truth to power, much like you are trying to speak truth to power. And in that same manner, she then listened to Krishnamurti and lifted the emergency. So there have been great examples of men also positively impacting women leaders per se.
Of course. And vice versa.
And vice versa, that are there. But coming back to questions from them, and of course the conversation was not supposed to be this, but questions from them.
But I'm Mitesh. अब और भी questions आएंगे इसी चीज पर. ठीक है, करो मजा आएगा.
Mitesh पूछो. हाँ.
Hi sir, my name is Mitesh. I'm from Anand, Gujarat.
Nice to meet you, Mitesh.
So my question is that, like, I really admire you and the content which you produce, because it has education plus entertainment. But the generation which I come from, when we ask a 16-year-old, what do they look up to? Most of them point out to a content creator or influencer for that matter, And it's not wrong, because the generation which we live in, it's all about social media, what you see around. But when you ask the same content creator or a same influencer that as basic as a GK question, they might not be able to say that. And people go crazy, and like that particular reel or that particular video goes viral, and people love that much more.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, what is there for a 16-year-old or for a 18-year-old to genuinely look up to those influencers and those content creator?
क्वेश्चन तो तुम्हारा बहुत अच्छा है, आंसर इसका मेरे पास भी. देखिए यार, द इशू राइट नाउ इज देयर आर टू थिंग्स, राइट, एंड द वे दैट आर कंडीशनिंग वर्क्स, ओके, टू थिंग्स दैट ऑलवेज गेट अटेंशन. वन इज success, which you also spoke about. Anything that is successful, anyone has 20 million followers, 5 million followers, 10 million followers, that is considered success, versus someone who could be in your immediate surrounding, you know, who could have, जैसे ये बात कर रहे थे, आपके घर में आपकी मदर ने कितना ओवरकम किया होगा जहाँ पहुँचने के लिए, वो आप नहीं सोच रहे सक्सेस. आपके पापा ने कहाँ तक पहुँचे होंगे, क्या क्या उन्होंने. जाकिर की एक लाइन है, वो अपने शो में बोलते हैं, इट्स नॉट अबाउट वेयर यू, इट्स नॉट अबाउट यू नो हाउ फार यू हैव कम, इट्स अबाउट वेयर यू स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम. वहाँ से तुम कहाँ तक पहुँचे, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है यार, यू नो. तो वो हम लोग नहीं देखते, बिकॉज हमारी कंडीशनिंग यही है कि जो सबसे ज़्यादा बुक्स कौन लिखता है, जो सक्सेसफुल हो चुके हैं, फिर वो लिखते हैं कि हाँ मैं इतना फेल हुआ था. अरे तुम बुक इसलिए लिख पा रहे हो,
नॉट कंपल्सरी, मैंने भी बुक लिखी है.
तुम इसलिए भी लिख पा रहे हो कि तुम कितने सक्सेसफुल हो भाई. सो इट इज़ द पॉइंट इज दैट इज़ वन. द अदर थिंग दैट इज़ अनफॉर्चुनेटली एंड फॉर फॉर्चुनेटली, anything that is well made or entertaining or compelling will always have your attention, which is what I'm saying, the interesting versus the important. The interesting will always have your attention. The important may not necessarily have your attention. And it is then the duty of people like you who understand this to divert the attention or bring the attention back to what is important. And which is why there are people like me, there are people like Rishabh, and there are so many other folks that I can think of, you know, who are genuinely, अब कितने भी मतलब content creators की दुनिया में भी, there are friends of mine, you know, whether it's a Think School who breaks down business case studies, whether it is, you know, Neha Nagar who breaks down, you know, finance in a very, very nice way. There are climate change influencers today who are actually doing such great work, you know, and writing books about it, etc., etc. And there is, so Siddhesh karke, I don't know if you follow Sidiously. Does anyone follow Sidiously over here? Only one person? Please follow him. Sidiously, Sidiously, Siddhesh Lokare. He is one of the most, I would imagine, the kind of role model our country needs. One of my favorite people on earth. His own story, he's come from like abject poverty, और वो 1 million 1.5 million व्यूज़ पे आ चुका है, उसकी हर रील वायरल जाती है, एंड ही इज़ यूजिंग हिज इन्फ्लुएंस टू मेक स्कूल्स इन महाराष्ट्र. ही इज़ डूइंग सम एंड फॉर अंडर प्रिविलेज्ड किड्स, यू नो, व्हाट अ ब्यूटिफुल पर्सन. सो देयर आर एग्जांपल्स लाइक दिस, एंड द थिंग इज दैट अगेन इट इज़ इनकम्बेंट ऑन द पीपल हु अंडरस्टैंड दिस टू ब्रिंग देम टू लाइफ. तो मेरे प्लेटफॉर्म पे ना, यू नो, सो देयर इज़ आई मीन युवा पे देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु आर प्रॉब्लमैटिक, you will never see a certain kind of content creator on a platform, even though they have asked a million times to be on, because हमको भी व्यूज़ आ जाते हैं, तो बहुत लोग रीच आउट करते हैं कि हम आना चाहते हैं, हम मना कर देते हैं, ठीक है ना. हम कहते हैं कि बहुत, और मेरा मना करने का भी तरीका ये है, निखिल टाउन में ही है, ही इज़ आउट ऑफ टाउन, ही इज़ ट्रैवलिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट 4 years. जब भी पूछते हैं, अरे वो हुई नहीं. सो आई डोंट इवन, आई मीन, but there is a value system that we have, that we don't want to get someone we know very well is actually dangerous for the thought process of society. Having said that, the other side I'll also say, just because someone doesn't have a knowledge of GK does not mean that their life is immaterial or the work that they're doing is immaterial. Sometimes just to be able to bring joy to people is such a huge thing. It is a content creator who's making you laugh, who's making you smile, who's moving you in some way or the other, but cannot answer GK. That's okay, because they're serving a certain purpose in your life, and that purpose पूरा हो गया ना, वो बहुत है.
You spoke about people that you don't want to have on the show. Example.
तुम ना ये अभी ऋषभ में समझ आ गया. He's just like 2 हफ्ते पहले जो हुआ है ना, उसके बाद he's like I want to recreate that. जो भी हुआ है पूछो.
नहीं, I'm asking you these tough questions because
पूछो.
Because it started with Kushal.
Correct.
Sandeep Reddy Wanga.
तुम्हें भी हर तुम्हें ना every single one of these sessions में तुमसे question पूछवाएंगे अभी ऋषभ. पूछो.
No, Sandeep Reddy Wanga.
Yes.
And the idea is never to ask.
No, I know, man. This is I am happy to answer anything.
Why do you say, for example, if there is no contrasting viewpoint?
Correct.
That now, say for example, there is one school of thought that is coming through what you are producing.
Correct.
and this is one sort of masculinity that you are projecting.
Correct.
And one sort of worldview that is coming across. Sandeep Reddy Vanga and Animal. It's not my favorite movie. But why is this? And I've also, I understand this thought that you're coming from.
Yeah.
But if we only produce and give one-sided narratives, then are we obstructing the other side completely? Or do you think because there is enough that is done already in terms of mass media out there, that there should be platforms that should only be dedicated to giving one school of thought?
Yeah, it's not about sides, no. It's about, मैं कैसे बताऊँ? It's, मुझे लगता है, I genuinely believe art is a responsibility. I genuinely believe that all art is politics. I believe that every single thing, now that politics can be conscious or it can be subconscious. So either you understand, like I understand, हमारी liberal politics है और हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं empathy की, हमारे तो मतलब literally हमारा commandments है, we have 10 commandments at Yuvaa. The number one commandment at Yuvaa is our politics is empathy. We have to be empathetic. Now the question is, wait, now I'm coming. The question is that when you say your politics is empathy, does that mean that if a Nazi is in front of you, you have to be empathetic to the Nazi? Now there are many schools of thought that if, and there's a whole, by the way, there's a whole philosophical argument, should you punch a Nazi? You know, literally a philosophical argument that kind of says this, that...
मुझे philosophy अच्छी लगती है, आप बताओ.
हाँ, so the argument basically is that if you are agreeing to everyone who disagrees with you, even if that disagreement, the person who's disagreeing is harmful to society, ultimately they will become so much
more powerful.
Yeah, they will become so much more powerful because you are allowing their argument that society will cease to exist. And that is what happened with the Nazis, right? Like if you don't counter Nazi propaganda initially, that propaganda becomes so powerful that ultimately how many lives had to be lost because somebody was afraid to disagree with it initially. And वही है, अगर आप empathy के भी boundaries होने चाहिए. Empathy should also come from, should you be empathetic to someone who, let me be very, very honest, should we be empathetic to someone who rapes? Should you be empathetic to someone who murders? Should you be empathetic? And I'm not saying accidental, I'm saying a thought through rape, a thought through, I mean, rape is not accidental, but I'm saying murder, किसने गलती से मार दिया वो नहीं बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. But if a thought through murder, a premeditated crime, it's the same question. Should you hang these people or should you put them in, you know, encounter? वो बहुत बड़े philosophical questions हैं. But genuinely, I truly believe that if your empathy has no limits, where you are all right with a society, with the people with the worst thought processes, get equal platforms with the people with the best thought processes. Unfortunately, the way our world works, the people with the worst thought processes are also the loudest. The people with the best thought processes are the quietest. जो आप meditation करते हैं ना, वो चुपचाप बात कर रहे हैं, वो डंका मार के बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. But जो एनिमल जैसी पिक्चर बना रहे हैं ना, वो मतलब बड़े पर्दे पर बैंगिंग म्यूजिक लेकर बात कर रहे हैं. तो होता क्या है ना, because again as I said, you are compelled to entertainment, you are compelled to art, you are compelled with storytelling. You are possibly going to go there anyway. And then what happens? Society becomes that. And then the people who are doing this are left so small that now you
minority बन जाते हैं.
यहाँ पर minority बन जाते हैं. And ultimately जो तुम करना चाह रहे थे, if the majority is actually trying to be considerate to the feelings of the worst impulses of people, that worst impulse is going to come back and bite you in the ass, and then you will, when they are in power, they will not think about you. And that's the problem. It's not that when they are in power, they'll be like, नहीं तुमने तो हमारे तुमने अच्छाई दिखाई थी तो आज तुम्हें जीने देते. नहीं, Nazi is going to kill you irrespective. If you're a Jew, you're dead. It doesn't matter if Nazi is if there's a good Jew, a kind Jew, a empathetic Jew, a rich Jew. Doesn't matter. If you're a Jew, you're dead.
And after World War II got over, then what the Jews did to what the Germans did per se, and what happened post that. Of course, the whole the race was wiped out in a way.
Correct.
But then the other way, when the Jews post Nazi Germany and the atrocities that were committed, and that extremity happened. So my question in this is this, that
it's terrible. It's so sad.
ये polarization में जो हो रहा है, और polarization में जो platforms also, individuals also, नकुल से बात होती रहती है, दिया मिर्जा and all these people, wonderful people who are,
इस पे भी हम लोग 4-4 बजे तक बात करते हैं हम लोग.
कि the same thing that he says, that Rishabh, by giving platform and voice to those who are creating more hatred, it will only give, like you said, it will only push a particular narrative per se.
Correct.
But when we play God and we decide who is it that is going to, of course, when it comes to rape, when it comes to murder, when it comes to base human things which are decided.
Correct.
That is, which cannot be argued across caste, creed, religion, etc. That's acceptable. But because we like a particular worldview, devil's advocate.
No, absolutely.
We like a particular worldview, we give more opportunity to that worldview to be presented to the world, and we give lesser opportunity to another worldview. Is that the right thing for media to do?
See, I would say that, again, utopian argument in a healthy democracy and a healthy society.
I'm very utopian.
No,
that's why.
in a healthy democracy, healthy society, and I'm glad you're having this counter argument, right? Because we should be able to have arguments like
Of course.
We should be able to have discussions like this where Kushal can ask me a question and I will not hate him for it, right?
Correct.
Where I'm like, nahi yaar, it's just a question. It's not him as a human being, right? And he, just because I know this one question about him does not mean that I know exactly who he is as a person. I'm not judging. I know enough to know that he's so much more than one question, like you are. You are so much more than the fun you are trying to have right now, right? So I understand that. Having said that, there are enough people who are not just asking it innocently. And that is a problem, you know. And if we don't recognize that, कि यार ये question innocently नहीं आ रहा. Animal, देखो I'll tell you, when Kabir Singh happened, I saw Kabir Singh. I didn't have a problem. Honestly, I'm not that extreme woke, to be honest, where I don't believe that art, you know, everybody should be able to tell their story. I believe that everybody, as long as it is authentic, as long as it's honest, you know. Now, I thought that Kabir Singh is, chalo, theek hai, it's an honest art. It is something that somebody has made, and I thought that he's just doing it because this is a story he wants to tell. And then I heard an interview that he did with Anupama Chopra, where in that interview he said कि हाँ तो क्या हो गया अगर आदमी औरत को थप्पड़ मारे तो उसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है. That is actually, I believe, true love. आदमी should be able to slap औरत should be able to slap आदमी. And I was like, bro, this guy is demented. Because till then I thought that it's just a story that he's saying. Then I realized it's not a story, this is him as a person. And that is when I started getting a little scared कि भाई, this worldview is not right. My problem is not the story. My problem is what are you trying to say through it and why. If you're doing it purely as, you know, an artistic freedom, if you're doing it as an experiment, if you're doing it to test the boundaries of art, there are a lot of provocateurs, you know, who have done this on, you know, on many different subjects. You know,
painters.
Sex, religion, etc., etc. But if you are doing this and you enjoy it and you know that and this is your worldview, that's dangerous, because this worldview is dangerous. If you normalize this idea that men should openly slap women, and it's okay to do so, if you normalize this idea that violence, aggression is a part of masculinity and we should be just comfortable with
Dhurandhar? पूछ रहा हूँ आपको अभी now considering.
Again. So मेरा क्या है ना, I understand Aditya, the context of Aditya Dhar, है ना? He's and again I'm presuming this, it doesn't give too many interviews. I've not heard him speak as much. I do know that he's a Kashmiri Pandit, and I do know that Kashmiri Pandits have gone through a lot of trauma in society. I understand that when he's making something, his trauma seeps into his art. So all the stuff that he's produced, it's not just then. He's made a film called Bara Khamba, etc., etc. There's a point of view, which is a certain specific point of view that I can understand comes from his trauma. I am not going to stand in opposition of his trauma, because that trauma is lived and it's real. But can I stand in opposition to what is being said in the film in many ways? Yes, I can. If there are things in the film that make me uncomfortable, I can totally and should talk about it. But not to accuse the filmmaker as being a bad person, but saying that his film में कुछ ऐसे elements थे जो मुझे पसंद नहीं आए.
So is a Sandeep Reddy and an Aditya Dhar welcome on Via Yuvaa?
They are not welcome on Be a Manyar, but I'm happy to do a debate show.
But why? Why? Because you think the worldview is different, correct?
Because I don't want to encourage that understanding of masculinity. वो उनके पास 350 करोड़ है, उनके पास भाई 100 करोड़ के बच्चे बना सकते हैं.
पूरा मीडिया एम्पायर है.
हाँ, उनके एम्पायर है. मेरे पास नहीं है. मैं क्या करता? हाँ, exactly. I want to, and it's very specific. So as I said, there are many people like that who have reached out, and I've said no to all of them with a very, and Nakul and I have this debate very often. In fact, to be very honest, Nakul says, why don't you get him on your show? I see where the friendship comes from. So वो बहुत ही मेरे को, he always ribs me and says, why don't you get Sandeep Banga ready on your show? I'm like, I'm happy to do another show. Don't be a man yaar, or don't be this kind of a man yaar. वो कर सकते हैं. I'm very happy to host him there. I don't want my show to platform a certain kind of point of view that I myself am uncomfortable with.
नकुल तो मुझे vice versa बोलता है. बोलता है कि ये सारे लोगों को क्यों बुलाते हो? But anyways, I think he's always looking.
Yeah,
he's always looking
the
for the
agent provocateur that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Other questions?
हम लोग इस साइड में भी यहाँ पर सारे अच्छा एक आया था इस साइड से. ठीक है.
Hi sir, my name is Nana.
Hi Nana.
I am from Mumbai as well.
Nice to meet you. Which part of Bombay?
Bangkok.
Okay.
So my question to you is that, you know, Gen Zs are called lazy these days,
Yeah.
and we were also called cockroaches recently. So my question to you is that when we are not given a platform, like IIM and given platform, we are thriving in this organization right now. So do you think the older generation is not giving opportunities, that's why we are like this, or do you think that, you know, something is wrong with this generation?
I don't think anything is longer to it. I've literally started a company called Yuvaa. What more can I say to show faith in young people? I truly believe. In fact, the only time I feel hopeful is when I'm with young people. When I'm with older people, I feel very less hopeful. I don't know how he does it. मेरे से तो नहीं होता भाई. मैं तो जब बुढ़े लोग हैं उनके साथ बैठता हूँ मेरे को लगता है पता नहीं क्या. I get very uncomfortable, I get very anxious because I feel like a lot of them, I'm not saying everybody of course, but a lot of them have such stuck worldviews and such strict worldviews about how the world should be. And I believe that we should have open thinking, open communication, open discourse, open discussion, open debates. But unfortunately, that kind of freedom of expression, that kind of freedom of speech is not something that old folks welcome. And
Agreed.
that is also why they have a problem with young people.
Agreed.
Because you have social media platforms to now say things, and that thing is not welcome. And why is the Twitter account of CJP banned? What is the reason behind? There is no reasoning. It is just that, oh shit, there's a student movement that is gaining power, let's ban it. Yes, it could be political, but isn't in a democracy shouldn't opposition be encouraged?
No, that's what Shashi Tharoor said. That we should not take down the account like that. Freedom of speech should not be restricted in that sense.
You want to debate, discuss, defend, and attack the ideas of what something else is doing. Feel free to do it. I wouldn't want, I've spoken about, Sandeep Banga Reddys of the world. I wouldn't at all at any point of time want any harm towards them. I just believe that in a free market, they should have the right to say what they want. I should have a right to say what I want without their fans, trolling me, hating me, being negative to me. क्या हो गया?
You said they are fans.
versus and my fans either way, right? And which is unfortunately not the perfect world that we live in. I don't think young people are lazy. I think that there is so much cognitive load that exists today. Even as a millennial, I feel it. And I know that when you are younger and you have not had that much experience in life. You have not gone through as much lived experience as folks who are 35 plus or 30 plus, etc., etc. The cognitive load becomes a lot more overwhelming, and you may not have those kind of resources that we have. What people look at as entitlement, what people look at as laziness, actually comes from the fact that भाई बहुत चीजें हो रही हैं. There's constant noise यार. I don't remember the last 5 years where I actually as a millennial kind of sat down and said, क्या दुनिया है? I don't remember the last time I even felt that. I do think, and that's also because again पहले क्या होता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि हमेशा दुनिया अच्छी थी. दुनिया पहले भी खराब थी. It's just that we didn't have apps that were all constantly telling us how bad the world is. Now we do. And the thing, as I was telling him earlier, the stuff that is bad or evil or worse actually gets amplified so much more because, again, we have not spoken about that because algorithms and tech companies actually get profits out of that. अगर आप negativity को amplify करोगे, अगर आप जो loudest voices हैं, they get the highest engagement. So constantly the worst things are reaching out to you. The best things are happening around you, but you're not even why is this whole I truly endorse the idea of touch grass. भाई जाओ grass, literally, I'm saying literally touch grass. Go out in nature, put your feet on your ground and recognize that the world isn't as bad as people say, and you do not have to be as overwhelmed with it. if you go out in nature, spend time with yourself, you'll realize that there's so much more beauty in this world than there is anger and evil in this world. And I believe that laziness actually and entitlement actually is just a feeling of constant overwhelm that every one of us is going through. It's just that there are many older folks who will not say it out loud. I am the cool person, so I will say it out loud. Okay. So don't let this define you. And anybody who doesn't give you a platform, you're not going to have as many organizations in the world that actually put their faith on you. But what you have is the power of social media. You've seen what CJB can do. Any one of you can do this. Genuinely, you have to learn the language in which communication happens, and you are native to that language. You are native to the TikToks, you are native to the Instagram reels, you are native to YouTube shorts. Get on it, do everything that you want to do in a way that you feel that. मैं तो हमेशा ये सोचता हूँ कि अगर आप अपनी कहानी नहीं बताओगे ना, कोई और नहीं बताने वाला. And it's your responsibility to tell your story. So say it. Don't wait for opportunities. Don't wait for someone to knock on your door. Create your door.
Just to add on to what he said, young people are the best hope. Ironman, of course, empowers and is run by young people like you. Right? But at the same point in time, it is, like I've said n number of times over, that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the coolest generations, and there is much to learn from Gen Alpha and Gen Z.
Absolutely.
But at the same point in time, because there is no older person who's sitting out here and giving you a counter perspective, just the one thing that I picked up from older people, and being around quite a few of them, we've had 34,000 people who walked into Ironman, out of which a few essentially are young, but majority are old. But the idea that it is also important before we get agency, because sometimes it happens such that when we see a show called Shark Tank India, we feel very empowered in order to become an entrepreneur. And it's a really cool thing as a young person that you have social media and you have access. But social media and access need not mean necessarily success in the world on metrics that are likes and engagement. You see, Shark Tank India is a great example. The sharks who are there are doing businesses. How many of these businesses are profitable ventures? It's really cool to be paraded as a person who is very popular and has gone and done something in life. But like he said, that there are very few people that he would not want to have on the show. Like that, say for example at Ironman, when you see a Deepak Parekh come and talk, and he's the chairman of HDFC, and I keep saying this, that there's a difference between whales in oceans and sharks in tanks. And therefore these people, and study their life stories. And I've just yesterday I put this out saying PT Usha doesn't create reels, Rahul Dravid doesn't create reels, Mukesh Ambani doesn't create reels, and these are the people who are essentially the ones who are setting the template for the country and have set the template for the country. See, why are they successful, what made them successful, and how their life journeys went about. It was very different from a time where essentially we had to do things basis the gram. So I'm just saying, don't be, because there is this worldview which is very similar. This conversation can go as in me agreeing to Nikhil, Nikhil agreeing to me, and I'm glad that these counter views were brought about. But it's also important to be able to see and compare other life journeys which are not on the gram, and then see the difference between what we are shown and what is performative versus what actually will help you in real life per se. So that's another.
I firmly believe that you should listen to everyone and do what your heart says.
Correct.
तुम सबकी सुनो. मैं तो मतलब अपने, I mean, how do I say this? Even when I was in Yashraj and MTV etc., मेरे bosses आके बोलते थे ये करना चाहिए, मैं बोलता था okay, करता मैं वही था जो मुझे करना है. And because I really had, ऐसा नहीं कि मैं मतलब I was just disruptive or I was always disagreeable. I actually believed in the work that I wanted to do, so I would not just listen. I have literally had things where my boss has come and said, "ये मत बनाना, ये नहीं चलेगा." I said okay, and I continued working on that, and then I came back with a pitch, and they were just like, "This is the best thing I've read." I was like, so sometimes I truly believe, listen to everything, but your value systems you should be able to define.
वो तो हम लोग कुछ भी बोलेंगे, eventually they will do what they want only. but the idea that what you're saying is also very true. Other questions from this side?
Yes, please.
Yes. Hi.
Hello, sir.
Hi. What's your name?
Ishika.
Where are you from, Ishika?
I'm from Mumbai only. Daisar.
Sir, basically my question is that here's something I've noticed throughout the years. It's a follow-up from Rishabh sir's question only, that women in media, they are mostly portrayed, whenever they are portrayed as homemakers, they are either empowered after getting a job or something like that, or they are either portrayed as a comedic gag. So, sir, in this era where women are given the choice that you can either be a homemaker, stay at home, nurture, or you are able to go out, work in the wild, and do whatever you want. Why do you think that homemakers are not as respected in the media as the other professions or women who are working?
I think you already answered.
I don't think that they're disrespected in media. I don't think that is the understanding. But जावेद साहब ने एक बहुत प्यारी बात बोली थी हमें BM Miner एपिसोड के अंदर कि हम लोग ना जब सारा बर्डन डाल देते हैं माँ पर या होम मेकर पर, अरे आप तो सेक्रीफाइस करते हो, अरे आप तो बहुत ही महान हो, अरे आप तो, देन व्हाट हैपेंस इज दे स्टार्ट लिविंग देयर एंटायर लाइव्स फॉर एवरीबडी एल्स देन फॉर देमसेल्व्स. I was having this conversation with my mother, very recently, and we spoke about, and sometimes some really small conversations kind of set you off in many different ways. Where I said, she क्या खाना है आज? And I was like, मम्मा कभी आपको क्या खाना है आज, आप वो बताओ, because हर रोज़ आप मेरे से पूछते क्या खाना है, and then she was not able to come with an answer. I was like, मम्मा कुछ तो खाना होगा, नहीं तू बता आपको क्या खाना है, आपको पसंद क्या है, मैं तो सब खा लेती हूँ, आपकी फेवरेट डिश क्या है. She just didn't know what is my favorite dish. Okay, dal chawal, rajma chawal. I was like, is that really? Because I've seen you enjoy something else more. But she didn't know. Why? Because she's lived her entire life for her children, for her husband, that now the favorite thing that she has is the favorite of either her son, her other son, or her husband. Whether it is a favorite movie, when you ask her, she'll say the same movie as my father. If it's a favorite hero, it's the same hero as my father. And it's not that she's a very strong individual personality. बहुत ही strong. She is, I mean, the life that she's led, the way she's raised us, I'm so proud of her as a human being. But again, ultimately society has constantly told her that you have to live for your family, that she doesn't even know उनकी खुद की choices क्या हैं, आपकी खुद की चीज़ें आपको पसंद क्या हैं. And that is why, there is a narrative now that explains that being a homemaker there's nothing wrong. Of course, if you're choosing that, that's amazing. But if your entire life comes down to just being that, then it's a problem. And it's the same for everything else. I'm trying to break that understanding through my show that men's entire life shouldn't be their job. Their entire life shouldn't just be providing. They should get the opportunity of, spending time with the people they love, with the children, with themselves, with their, and if that means a difficult decision between कि शुड आई अर्न, अगर आपके पास मतलब आपने किसी तरीके से ज़िंदगी में 1 करोड़ कमा लिया एंड अभी आपको क्या है कि मुझे 2 कमाना है, अभी उसके क्या 4 कमाना है, 4 क्या 6 कमाना है, 6 क्या 10 कमाना है, 10 क्या 20 कमाना है. इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट एट सम पॉइंट इन टाइम यू सेइंग एक्चुअली आई हैव गॉट इनफ एंड आई वांट टू अर्न लेस but I want to spend more time with my family. That is a choice that men should also get. My wife has taken that choice. She got a great offer from another company. She's working in like a bank right now, and she got another offer from a competing bank, a fantastic offer, which is like almost, I would say, 70% of the salary she was at. We had just gotten pregnant at that time, or just we were trying, aisa kuch tha, and she said, I don't want to take this decision. Why? Because I want to focus on my pregnancy. I'm okay with earning a little less as long as I'm able to give time to myself in my pregnancy. I also want to be in a position to be able to make that choice. At this point of time, even with all the things I tell you, I don't think I'm in that position. Because for whatever it's worth, because she has a lot of the pressure of getting a home is on me, because my job is such. I am earning a lot more than her. So she's saying that, okay, I'm going to take care of this. I get the 6 months to be at home. She gets 1 year work from home after 6 months of maternity leave. So she's gotten 1.5 years to spend time with her child. I am here doing this. I am here going to work because I am saying चलो ठीक है, and I've kept a target for myself. It's not that I want to do this endlessly. मैंने सोचा कि अगले 2 साल के अंदर मुझे इतना पैसा कमाना कि मैं एक घर खरीदूँ, and उसके बाद अभी भी मेरा work from home बहुत हो गया. I've taken, because I'm an entrepreneur, I've taken that call that my work from home, I'm going to work 2 days from home and 3 days I'll go to office. But I want to be in a place where I'm only working from home. I don't want to go to office at all. उसके लिए 2 साल मुझे और लगेंगे, उतने पैसे मैं कमा लूँ, उसके बाद मैं यही करूँगा. But that is a decision I've made for myself. Most women, most men, most people of other genders do not get this choice. And this entire struggle is to give that agency, is to give that choice.
Do you think cinema influences society or does society influence cinema?
It's a great question. मुझे क्या लगता है फॉरेन में especially like I mean when you look at Parasite in Korea, it's the breakout hit of that year. It's a box office success also, and it is something that has won Oscars, and it is really really well known technically. And you look at some of the greatest films of all time, actually it is society that has inspired cinema, and cinema has reflected that society. I don't know why it's the case, but I feel in India it's the opposite. I feel like India के अंदर लोग सोसाइटी फिल्में देखते हुए बोलते हैं मैं ये हूँ, और मुझे उस बात से बहुत डर लगता है, और मुझे लगता है हमारी फिल्में को उसको समझ नहीं आती। जब तेरे नाम आया था सब ने वो हिस्सा बना लिए थे। एक साधना कट हुआ करते थे एक ज़माने के अंदर, जब साधना आई थी गजनी हुआ तो लोगों ने बाल अपने कटवा लिए थे, I mean it's not only related to men, and this is why I oppose the things that filmmakers like Sandeep Anga Reddy show, because I feel like it genuinely has a big influence on society. See, this is a question I ask a lot in my panels as well. Varun Grover ने बड़ी अच्छी इंटरेस्टिंग बात बोली थी इसके बारे में कि देखो अगर आप कुछ बुरा दिखा रहे हो अपनी फिल्मों के अंदर, आर्ट है, आप दिखा सकते हो एज लॉन्ग एज उसके एंड में ना उसका कॉन्सिक्वेंस भी दिखा रहे हो। मिर्ज़ापुर में क्या होता है आप, क्योंकि व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट अ मिर्ज़ापुर वर्सेस एन एनिमल, and I had gotten Ali on that panel also, so that was the conversation, right? So why is Mirzapur okay? In many ways the violence in Mirzapur is okay, but the violence in Animal is not, because in violence in Mirzapur the people who do the violence end up getting bad deaths. Godfather के अंदर भी यही हुआ था, जितने भी आप माफिया फिल्म देख लो ना गैंगस्टर फिल्म्स के अंदर, you don't show at the end of it the gangster is like has won and is taken over the world and is now the king of the world. No, he dies a terrible death because that is the consequence of your terrible actions. But in films like Animal or Kabir Singh etc, you can do terrible things to women, misogyny कर सकते हो आप बोल सकते हो औरत को मैं जूता लिख कर वगैरह वगैरह, and you are still the fucking hero of the story. You are still going to go out on a high, and that is a problem. So I truly do feel that unfortunately India में थोड़ा रिवर्स है, हम लोग सोसाइटी को रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं। एक बंदा करता था आमिर खान, अनफॉर्चुनेटली उसकी पिक्चर भी चलनी बंद हो गई अब, आई डोंट नो व्हाई, but he was the only one I would see who's constantly trying to make films that reflect societal truth but do it in such an entertaining way that it would become massive hits. Now unfortunately the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years he's not been able to, because the rise of hyper masculine films have become so big and they've become so powerful that any counter narrative now has ceased to exist.
So this counter narrative that you spoke about, you spoke about भी RRR है या फिर बाहुबली is there.
I liked RRR. I thought was like actually very queer coded. I thought it was very cute. The way that those boys just love each other. I thought it was such a positive masculinity. उसका हाथ पकड़ना चाहता है यार. That's all he wants. There's scenes on scenes, बड़े scenes है कि जहाँ पर वो हाथ दे रहा है और दूसरा लड़का हाथ पकड़ रहा है ना, हम लोग यही होना चाहिए यार.
But
एक दूसरे कंधे पे लेकर चल रहे हैं. ऐसे देखो ये masculinity देखेंगे तो मुझे भी पसंद है, करो बहुत ही प्यारी है तो.
But ये सारे films में violence is propagated. All of these films, बाहुबली जो भी movies है, and we grew up in a very different era watching कुछ होता है.
Correct.
The idea that today's cinema is pushing one narrative, there is no doubt about it. Amir's films are not working.
Correct.
This is
unfortunately
they're not working. But the idea that filmmakers, and when I ask this question to filmmakers say that if it is not commercially going to work, Rishabh, if people are not going to go and watch the movie, then by making this, then I'm going to bleed into losses per se. And at the end of the day, I need to sustain myself. So for anybody who's going to watch this, who's watching this, and if they are young movie makers, filmmakers per se, how do you balance, आपने Parasite का उदाहरण दिया, how do you balance the truths that you want to show vis-a-vis what is popular and working in society today?
You can, bro. मैं वही कह रहा हूँ कि these are false choices. मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, देखो Be a Man यार, मैं तुम्हें एग्जांपल अपने शो का देता हूँ बेस्ट, राइट? Be a Man यार, हम लोगों ने जो, हमें पता है हमने शो के बारे में मेंटल हेल्थ की बात की, वल्नरेबिलिटी की बात की वगैरह वगैरह. हमने जब पहला ट्रेलर डाला ना Be a Man यार का, हमारा ट्रेलर, इफ यू सी द ट्रेलर, द फर्स्ट 45 seconds of the trailer is fun parts. It's just fun, people saying fun things on the show. And Vicky Kaushal कुछ मजेदार, मेरा इस ट्रेलर, the first trailer that started, that went on Reddit and became like a whole Reddit issue, was me asking Vicky Kaushal कि यार करीना तुमसे बड़ी है, तुमसे ज़्यादा सक्सेसफुल है, तुमसे ज़्यादा कूल है, तुम्हें कभी नहीं लगता कि मतलब कैसे मिल गई मुझे, etc कि, and that was, it went really viral because I could ask that question because I know Vicky for many years, and it wasn't offensive, it was just a funny thing that I wanted to ask him. एंड द रेस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन, कार्तिक आर्यन को मैंने पूछा है कि तुम सारे दिन बोलते रहते हो लड़कियों को ये प्रॉब्लम है, तुम कभी एक ये भी बता दो लड़कों की ये प्रॉब्लम है, उस पर भी तुम एक छोटा सा कर दो पीस. सो आई मेक श्योर दैट द शो दैट and this is what I say is my craft or whatever it is, that this art, this craft, my craft that I have learnt at MTV, that I have learnt at Yashraj, at no point will you see any piece of mine that will only seem preachy. I will make sure that it is entertainment first. उस entertainment के अंदर आपको कुछ मिल रहा तो हाँ सही है. फर्स्ट सीजन के अंदर ना our maximum episode was 1 hour. You know, नसीरुद्दीन शाह के हमने 2.5 घंटा शूट किया, हमने 47 minutes डाले हैं. It's got 1.5 million views because I believe it was such a short episode. I had not earned people's trust to have longer episodes. But after the first season worked, then I went, विकास देवरा कीर्ति की सर का एपिसोड मैंने 1.5 घंटे का डाला, वो 2 million पे है. Then I earned that trust and said कि okay, now you know the show, then I'll put. But before, until you know the show, what I'm trying to sell you is entertainment. I'm not just trying to sell you a message. And it is, that's what I'm saying, it's a false choice. You can do it. You can make entertaining things that have messaging in it, and you can say important things while making the best movie. Any movie that you care about deeply, that defined who you are growing up as a human being, any piece of art, any piece of music. Taylor Swift का example ले लो यार. लड़कियाँ टेलर स्विफ्ट से क्यों इतनी empower होती हैं? You know, there is
हर song में breakup है.
Yeah, breakup भी है, correct. But whatever, you know, it speaks to a feeling. It speaks to a feeling that young women go through that has not been spoken of in other art until now. Of course, there's a lot more young women who are incredible. But also there were banger songs. Banger songs, but had something to offer to young women who did not see them represented. This is also true for Justin Bieber. बहुत मजाक उड़ाया लोगों ने. But teenagers को हमेशा are the most ostracized you know, kind of phase in everybody's life. अरे teenagers को क्या पसंद है? ये तो teenagers के लिए वगैरह, पर वो भी इंसान है. They also want to feel seen and heard. Justin Bieber made them feel seen and heard. Banger songs, but about things that teenagers go through. And that's the whole thing, yaar. I think that always the greatest filmmakers of social, the greatest artists of all time, Amitabh Bachchan was, why is he known? Why is he so well respected? His films were about being the angry young man. And he was not angry for no reason. He was angry because society was unjust. He was an angry young man because he cared about society, and he said, I am not going to stand for this injustice. I am not going to stand for corruption. I am not going to stand for bureaucracy. And I am going to take a decision. That's why he's a legend today. You know, and that's the whole point. All of these, you know, see, there are also, I feel, fads. I'm not necessarily saying that Animal is not going to be remembered. I think it will always be remembered in a negative way. But the films that are going to last, the films that, or the people that who are going to last, Irfan Khan, कितने 500 करोड़ की पिक्चर बनाई है उसने? How much? उन्होंने कितनी बनाई थी बताओ? Maybe none. And yet he's remembered as one of the greatest actors of our country, and will always be remembered as that because he cared for his art. He could, in his expressions, he could save words. अभी तक उनके memes चल रहे हैं, अभी तक उनकी चीज़ें वायरल जा रही हैं. लोग ने निकाल की चीज़ें निकाल रहे हैं कि इरफान खान का एक 1980s की शॉर्ट फिल्म है, वहाँ से निकालो. Why? Because art is respected. When you put passion in your work, it is respected. When you care about the world, it shows. Your authenticity matters. So again, I completely reject anybody who thinks and feels that you cannot make something incredibly entertaining that has an incredible message in it. You can. The world has proved it over and over again.
Great. We hope that there are many more people who essentially make entertaining series. Which
by the
are
way,
also
just to say, the thing is that entertaining propaganda is already being made. तो जब propaganda entertaining बना सकते हैं, तो अच्छा message entertaining क्यों नहीं बना सकते? Simple सी बात है. By the way, you don't just have to ask questions. If there are things you want to say, feel free to say them. Like if there's something that we have said, especially if something Rishabh said you disagree with, say it. We won't mind.
Actually, I have 4 questions. You can decide which topic you.
एक पहले वाला
कहाँ से हो पहले बताओ?
Oh, Thane.
Thane से. Okay.
Diya, one question.
I love that she didn't say Mumbai and then say Thane.
No, like he can decide the topic he wants. I can't decide only which topic should I ask.
Okay,
Okay.
Yes,
First is related to CJP. Second is related
आप
to
बोलो
Gen
आप
Z.
बस बता पूछ लो.
Third is men's right. Okay. And fourth, last one is about influencers. You can.
What is the second one?
It was about Gen Z.
I'm ready to answer anything you want. Genuinely. I'm anything you want. I don't have a choice. मैं सब कुछ answer करूँगा.
Okay, so I will start with the Balansha thingy. In Nepal, we saw the revolution that happened, and right now the rapper Balansha is the prime minister.
Correct.
And right now we can also see about CJP what's going on. What if this revolution actually becomes something massive, and you know, there is some youth, like CJP actually becomes a political party.
Yes.
Do you think this will be a good revolution for the youth? after CJP becoming an actual political party?
Yeah, it is such a, like, it's very difficult to predict where it'll. A lot of it right now is hinged on one person, you know, and now hota kya hai ki whether it was Anna Hazare, whether it is Arvind Kejriwal, whether it is Abhijit right now, all of these, for revolutions, unfortunately, there sometimes always needs to be a face, you know. Nepal was one of the rare ones where there was no face. It was a Discord discussion that decided ki Sushil Gargi banegi Prime Minister, and then Balin Shah happened, etc., etc. It was a very rare instance. In this instance, there is a face. There is a founder of the movement. So now all the pressure is on Abhijit to see who does he want to be, and can he be that? That is also a question. Because अभी से ना बोलना शुरू कर दिया उसके पेरेंट्स ने कि उनके थ्रेट्स आने शुरू हो गए. His parents are in India, he's in Boston. Does he have the privilege to be able to create something? Does he have enough people who are going to allow him in this democracy to succeed as an opposition? I don't know. Do I hope that he becomes a powerful voice and CJP becomes a powerful voice of opposition, of disagreement, and of course of visions, and of course of wish lists and things that we want and manifestos? I hope so. That is what I would say. I just really hope it becomes that. I don't know where it will go.
Just quickly to add on the CJP part, the idea with a political party, it is always exciting to think that we should have an opposition and so on and so forth, and we should. Any democracy should have a very strong opposition. But at the same point in time, it is also imperative for us to understand where does this opposition come from. If it is coming from Germany, if it is coming from the United States of America, of a person who's sitting in America and then preaching about India. We had one such person come from America to India, and then he said, I am an Indian. So the idea that who is saying this, and because he said, and that's very important, in Nepal, Bangladesh, these movements, it's very important to study how those happened and what is currently happening in our country with CJP. CJP has a face. CJP has a political ideology of a person who is in charge, who is in another country at this juncture and who is giving gyan about this country. So I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. All that I'm simply saying is, as young people, we should also be mindful of the fact that if somebody is choosing not to live in our country, not study in our country, not work in our country like Nikhil is, and then giving us gyan about saying what is happening in, I'm just giving another counterpoint, because otherwise
मैं इस पे disagree करूँगा.
मुझे पता है.
मैं इसलिए disagree करूँगा because the government that we have right now also constantly loves our NRI population and says that, in fact, the NRI population is on Twitter all the time saying that we are the more Indians than our Indians. उनके फॉरेक्स से बहुत हमारा इंडिया चल रहा है, कब से चल रहा है. तो NRI होना और वहाँ से इंडिया के बात करना अगर गलत है तो वो हाउडी मोदी और हाउडी ट्रम्प वाला जो इवेंट होता है तो वहाँ पर क्यों इंडिया आना चाहिए, वो भी गलत है. नहीं, I truly believe that it shouldn't. If you're an Indian anywhere in the world and you hold an Indian passport and you're an Indian citizen, you have the right to talk about India.
See,
none of the other NRIs who are rich and famous get to talk about it.
No, in this, my viewpoint is thoda different because because I think that if you live in another country, whether you speak pro-Modi or anti-Modi, that's another thing altogether. Yeah. If you live in another country and you've chosen your karma bhumi as something else, your janma bhumi is India, and then you say that I was born in India and therefore, I am so passionate because I have an Indian passport and so on and so forth. Yeah. Then the idea that you say that because you were born in a country, but you've left that country, and now you are living in another country where you've adopted.
I agree with you on
where
this.
Where you are having a better quality of air.
So I agree with you for this. The only differentiation over here is, unfortunately, in our country right now, and I'm saying this is, देखो मुझे हमेशा से लगा है कि when you look at the history of our politics, almost every government has been very they've not been okay with as much opposition and freedom of speech across, right?
Agreed.
So even, and I would say just this is a persistent Indian problem, that if there is criticism that comes from any quarters, you actually become unsafe,
100%.
for many reasons. So a lot of journalists in India are not allowed to do journalism and there are people who are people of Indian origin whose passports have been cancelled. You know, so again, I'm not to say, I truly believe, I really hope that Abhijit comes to India, because I do think that if he wants to have an on-ground party, he should be in India. That makes no sense.
That's exactly, and I agree and concur to what you said. If he comes to India and if he has a conversation and chooses to say that now I'm living in India and look, this is what I want to do for Gen Z, then I think via Yuvaa he will accept him both ways. At IM1 we will accept him when he comes to India and he says, I am now within this place and I am now speaking for you because I am one of you and I've left all of that. Mahatma Gandhi came back
as his safety is guaranteed is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and the thing is that as much as there is, and I know there is a big fear of people speaking out, and therefore I started with commending you for what you're doing because I know it's difficult. But I also do believe that at certain points in time, like when these guys put up a post on social media and say something anti-government, you know, or the CA NRC protests happen, I don't think, I know that the Twitter ban is uncalled for.
Correct.
But I do also believe that in India is one of the few countries where you can actually stand up and say a lot of things which would be completely unacceptable in a Palestine or a Pakistan.
But Rishabh, why should we compare ourselves to countries where things are worse?
100%.
See, for example, and you know, this is what's happening even in America right now. The fact that under Trump, America again there for such a long time, and now that is also going. You could have late night hosts every night coming in making fun of the Prime Minister or the President of the country. I thought it was very commendable. And the fact that today is in fact the yesterday Colbert's last show, you know, and he had to be cancelled because, you know, Trump didn't want him. And I feel like that's a very scary place to be in.
I agree.
If you're not allowing discourse, if you're not allowing comedy, if you're not allowing debate, if you're not allowing free speech, you know, to the people who oppose you,
but Nikhil,
then it's a problem.
I agree with you. और मैं in fact ये तो बोलता रहता हूँ government को भी, saying ये मत, मतलब, you know, these are the things that you should.
सुन क्यों नहीं रहे हैं?
पता नहीं यार, वो we need more views. We need more views and we need more young people. But perhaps the idea that they are listening to that extent where in our country, unlike say in the United States of America, where you've compelled everybody to take a position, and what's happened in America also is, and I watch a Jimmy Kimmel and all of these people and a Fallon and all of them, a Jimmy Fallon every night, आप उसका show देख लो, मैं खुद देख के हंसता हूँ because the polarization that has happened out there, there is now, and that is the same polarization in our country also. If we have only a republic, and we have another TV channel showing, say for example, The Wire, and these are extremes that have happened, and people are taking extreme positions. When you ask on stage, and I asked Karan Thapar on stage something positive about the government, क्या बता दो? The job of media is to criticize the government. The same way you ask somebody else, you ask a Navika saying, tell me something negative about the government. It's difficult in order for them to say that. My thing is India, the Vajpayee days which you will remember, and Nehru's days before that, and everybody loves to, where Vajpayee was told, Vajpayee told as soon as he came, and you remember this, I'm sure, where there was Nehru's portrait in the parliament, and they were going to remove Nehru's portrait from the parliament, and he said, ये जब मैं युवा सांसद था और मैं जब पार्लियामेंट में पहली बार आया था, तभी नेहरू जी ने मुझे सिखाया कि क्या होना चाहिए, कैसे राजनीति होनी चाहिए, तो आप कृपया करके मेरा पोर्ट्रेट मत निकालिए, उनका पोर्ट्रेट मत निकालिए, क्योंकि वो तो हमसे कितने ही सीनियर है. This kind of civil discourse, Nikhil, is missing in our country.
I fully agree, Rishabh. I am with you. देख, मैं तभी तो I really appreciate and admire the work that you do, because you actually are one of the rare people in our country who are neutral, you know, who actually are not politically motivated in what you do as an organization, which is very rare. Which is very rare, and I'm saying that, and which is why it's very commendable how big you have been able to make your organization. Unfortunately, you know, there is a certain kind of, there are so many people for whom, you know, because of the circumstance they are in,
the funding,
either the funding problems, the privileges that they may have, certain caste they belong to, a certain sexuality they belong to, if they want to do exactly something like, you know, उनको शायद opportunity भी ना मिले. And तभी मैं कह रहा हूँ कि हमारी कंट्री में ना, as long as, if I mean, and I hope, and you know, I remain hopeful. The reason that I care, see, मैं तो I've grown up abroad. I came to India. I've chosen to make this my karma bhumi, as you're saying.
That's why
all my friends have gone abroad and they stay there, and
they're living a happy life.
They seem to be happy,
yes,
although now the ones who are going to America are regretting it. But having said that, I truly do believe in, I truly do have hope for this country.
Correct.
But the reason I have hope for this country is not because of the politics and the
of course
government.
not. It's because of them.
these.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And I truly believe if they
100%.
actually try to create a better world that we've been, and they have the resources, and if we are able to, as millennials, push them, give them the platforms, and allow them to really take the world forward, while we, with our experience and our expertise, guide them through that, saying that this is the right way to do it. I think वो balance हमको चाहिए यार.
Change will only happen from here. Young people are the best hope. That there is no question about it.
100%.
And I completely concur with you. Other questions that you have for Nikhil? Hi. Yeah. We'll take 2-3 more.
हाँ, मैं फटाफट आंसर करूँगा, promise. जल्दी करेंगे. I want more. I'm just liking your question so much. इतने smart लोग तुम लेकर आए हो साथ में यार. Such great questions, honestly.
उसके लिए तो आयमन चलता है.
No, but genuinely, it's so nice the kind of questions you're asking. Also, it's such a really it is an example of you have to have a good leader to be able to have people who are able to have these kind of discourses.
Very kind of you.
Really.
But like you said, that we learn more from them and less the other way around.
Same. Yes.
Hello sir, my name is Kanashka. I
Kanashka.
have came from Khargar, Navi Mumbai.
Nice to meet you.
So my question to you is, what belief did you strongly hold earlier in life that you completely disagree with today, and what changed your perspective?
Yeah, I used to, let me say very honestly, I used to be a person who used to be such a, and sometimes when you live abroad, when you grow up abroad, you end up in your head being a lot more Indian than you would sometimes even see people in India. As he said, आपको distance makes the heart grow fonder. So you really kind of believe that your country is the best country in the world. Your country is like everything that happens in India is there is nothing wrong can happen in India. India is always right. Every decision that is being taken, and I've grown up in Congress times, so I'm not even grown up in BJP times, right? But I truly used to believe that हमारी country में कुछ खराब हो ही नहीं सकता. हमारी country के जितने भी leaders हैं, best leaders हैं. हमारी country में जो भी कर रही है, best decision कर रही है. We are the best country. We are the best country.
And
which is something
this is despite growing up in Congress times.
Yeah, this is. I mean, whatever you want to say, right? Having said that, once I started living in India and I started having that understanding of the reality, I realized that we are not the best country, but we have all the potential to be one. And I think that difference is the thing that has defined who I am as a person. I don't believe, I know and I recognize all the things in India that require improvement. From the quality of life to the quality of the air to the value for human life to the dignity that we need to give to the oppressed and the marginalized. These are all things that are real issues that we should not be turning our faces away from. So I do believe there is a lot that needs to be done. But as I said, I remain hopeful about the fact that we can be the best country. We are the oldest democracy. We have come much before the USS of the world, etc. were even born. And we have managed to reach here despite all the differences, despite, as I said, our unity is in diversity. Everything, our culture is what makes us, I would say, makes us be a country that has a potential to be the greatest in the world. But we need to overcome, we need to find a way now to not only reduce ourselves into differences. There is so much we have in common, and if as a country and if as a nation, as young people, you are able to see the common in each other versus see the differences, which unfortunately the media, which unfortunately politicians, which unfortunately people of power is all they want you to see. कि हमारे अंदर differences हैं, नहीं, but बहुत सारा common भी है. अगर उस common को हम लोग लेकर आगे चढ़े ना, तो we will become the greatest country in the world. This is what I believe.
No doubt about it. Ninad.
So, because we spoke so much about media and platforming, different kinds of point of view as well. One thing I've noticed often is because of social media, a lot of times right-wing points or more conservative point gets more traction. Like you said, negativity is amplified on social media.
I'm not saying right-wing is negative. He's saying. देख लो भाई.
I think
मैंने नहीं बोला, इसने बोला कैमरा.
I think by the end of the conversation, ये तो establish हो गया.
मैंने बोला.
So. My question is, as you said, your politics is kind of liberal, it's empathy. So why is it that progressive politics continues to fail to utilize social media?
Great question.
Because I see like now the only option we have is Zoran Mamdani. Like he did so much. Like, but do we lack that political imagination in India to kind of have progressive politics become a phenomenon?
I will explain to you because I've thought about this a lot and it pisses me off. Okay. How do I say this without you making a reel and getting cancelled?
No, I won't make it. We won't put this part.
Okay.
बता
No,
दो
we can put this part, but okay.
बोलो ऐसे खुल के
The
बोलो.
thing about conservative and right-wing politics across the globe, okay, is that you only need to be a right-wing person to be a member of the right-wing association. Forget a party. अगर आप चाहे आप खराब इंसान हो, अच्छे इंसान हो, आप जेल जा चुके हो, आप मिनिस्टर बन सकते हो, आपने करप्शन किए, आप मिनिस्टर बन सकते हो, आपने घपले किए, आप मिनिस्टर बन, it doesn't matter, right? Like I'm saying, you can be the most terrible human being on the planet, but that does not stop you from being part of the right-wing association. The problem with the liberal politics is, unless you are perfect, you're not allowed membership. And if somebody or the other is going to raise a point and saying, अरे तुम तो ये ऐसे हो, तुम कैसे बोल सकते हो, तुम लिबरल, तुमने तो एक गलत काम कर दिया जिंदगी में. भाई सब करते हैं, उसके बाद आगे भी बढ़ते हैं. That is called evolution. But liberal politics does not leave scope for evolution. It only sees and reduces you to the one mistake you have made in your life, and it expects and wants perfection from everyone. And because of that high bar, हम लोग जब भी मूवमेंट शुरू होती है ना, वो अपने अंदर ही लड़ के खत्म हो जाती है. कोई भी मूवमेंट होती है वो अपने अंदर इनफाइटिंग करके खत्म हो जाती है.
Like they've kind of become exclusive in their inclusivity. Like
absolutely,
there's kind of specific things that you have to be.
So well said. See, what is empathy? I mean, I would say liberal politics in many ways is defined by empathy for everyone, right? कि सबके लिए हमारी empathy होनी चाहिए. But unfortunately, liberal politics in itself does not have empathy for those who do not have liberal points of view, right? And again, I make a distinction between not liberal point of views and genuinely harmful point of views. Forget that is something that we should absolutely fight against. But not just because your father, your mother, people in your family do not have that same point of view as you. Unless they are actively harmful, we should be able to sit across with them and try to bring them into our movement. And sometimes it's not easy. I have also failed in places, but I've also succeeded in places. And it is the responsive, I would think empathy is also privilege in that way. If you have empathy, you have a certain kind of awareness about the world. You have had certain circumstances that have made you empathetic. How do you use that empathy now? You can use it to say that, no, I'm only going to care about other empathetic people. That doesn't make you actually empathetic. That actually does not make you empathetic. Or you can say, it is my responsibility to bring more people into my empathetic movement. That is what the greatest, and Zoharan Mamdani is such a great example of that. I bring his politics down to the politics of saying my brother versus saying bro. He looks at anybody and says, my brother, come. You see that, notice that difference. I heard it for the first time and I was like, this is why this man is winning. He will, in a like a town hall like this, there will be people who will disagree with him and he'll be like, my brother, batao kya issue hai, But there are other people who at the same kind of place would, if they're liberal, sometimes they fight back and then say, isko nikalo, etc. They don't even take that question sometimes, And the right wing also does this. I'm not saying it's only the left that does this, but I would really, and Zoharan is such a great example of what liberal politics should look like. He's never failed to have a smile on his face. He's never failed to have a smile on his face. He's doing this for the joy of it. He's doing it because he truly cares, and he's not making this about himself. He always makes it about the people.
That's actually another question. I'm sorry if...
I want to quickly chime in with one thing.
It's just a statement actually rather than a question. Is that kind of progressive politics has lost the joy as well? Like everything has become serious.
Correct, but also because it takes a lot out. Let me also say, it takes a lot out of you. I'm not saying all progressive politics is bad. Of course, the reason that sometimes you also are not able to carry a movement is because it takes a lot out of you. When you're constantly looking at the most oppressed, and saying that we do, and they do care. Lots of people who care about the oppressed, care about the marginalized, they do care. And it's not easy because you're constantly seeing cruelty on them. You're seeing that oppression day in and day out. You're seeing the most terrible impulses of the people in power, and then you're seeing nothing changing on ground. It does make you depressive. It does make you feel like, what is hopeless. It does make you feel less joyful. But that's the whole point. You have to reach it is incumbent, unfortunately, the responsibility lies on the liberal, on the empathetic to create a more empathetic world. Those who don't have empathy, कैसे करेंगे यार? But जिनके पास है वही कर सकते हैं.
जो आप बोल रहे हो, उसमें खाली one counter view.
I love how बोलो. Yes.
It is important to ask.
Of course.
Is the idea that liberal, and जो आपने बोला that the problem with the liberal society is that they exclude people whilst trying to be inclusionist per se, and in that then and you were saying that the right wing easily accepts everyone per se, and it becomes like a washing machine.
Yes. I didn't say that, you were saying it.
No. Sure. I'm only understanding from your words.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay.
It's your understanding.
But is that correct understanding?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Your understanding.
So, in this political scenario, when the liberal system, the so-called liberal system, because liberal also is a worldview who is actually liberal. The right wing says that we are the actual liberals, and the left say that they are liberals. The idea that we as society, when we say that the right wing easily accepts liberals, the Congress party in our case, who is center-left per se, has also taken back so many people into their fold. It's right now they're seeing.
मेरा debate तो है ही नहीं between the parties of India. I am actually talking about people. I think parties तो मुझे तो genuinely लगता है when power corrupts. I feel like all power corrupts. Power corrupts, great power corrupts greatly. This is what I truly believe, and there are very few people who get power and use it for the good of people. बहुत ही rare examples है दुनिया के अंदर. बहुत ही rare लोग हैं जो actually on ground कोशिश फिर भी करते हैं चाहे वो पावरफुल हो ना हो, and they are the people who become the legends that you remember forever and ever because they actually cared. The thing is, I'm talking about outside of politics, and I'm talking about the movement in itself. आप कोई भी राइट विंग मूवमेंट देखोगे ना कहीं भी दुनिया के अंदर, उनको मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, तुम्हारी मेंबरशिप राइट विंग होने के लिए ना आपको अपना ये नहीं सीवी नहीं दिखाना पड़ता. अगर आपके पर्सपेक्टिव में एज एन एग्जांपल यू कुड बी समबडी हु इज द राइट विंग. I'm not saying India's politics, but I'm saying a certain right-wing politics can be homophobic, and yet they will accept gay people. US के अंदर ये है. There are like gay senators, there are gay,
who are Republicans.
Who are Republicans, and Republicans want to end gay rights. It makes no sense, but that is what it is. They're saying, "Arey, but you like us, it doesn't matter. You can be gay. The rest of the."
And Democrats are exclusionists because if you say, for example, if you don't toe the line, then you basically don't.
Like pronouns, So again, I've spoken to folks who are trans themselves, who are far more liberal than people who are not trans, who say कि every trans person को ऐसे बोलना चाहिए. अबे शायद नहीं पता उनको. आप बताओ तो सही ना. Try to have a human conversation with someone before judging them for an opinion that they may never have been exposed to. We assume if somebody is wrong about something, we assume it is because of intent. It may not be out of intent, it may be out of circumstance. Somebody might be wrong because the circumstance haven't exposed them to an awareness through which they could be right in your eyes. But if you are empathetic, sit across with them and have that conversation.
Someday we'll invite you again or I'll call you to talk about empathy and compassion and what stems from in the brain. But for now, the last question that I will ask is...
दो और question बाकी हैं. तुमसे last लेंगे एक दो और please. हाँ मुझे अच्छा लग रहा है.
लड़का वहाँ है. हाँ, good.
Yes.
So we were talking about CJP a lot. Like it is trending a lot right now. So my question is it actually the representation or the voice that the youth deserves or the Gen Z deserves? Or is it just trending?
वो तुम्हें डिसाइड करना है. सी वही तुम्हें डिसाइड करना है. तुम क्या चाहते हो उनसे? What do you want out of them?
उसका जो मैनिफेस्टो है, हम उस पार्टी के बारे में पढ़े, जो उसका फाउंडर है, which is अभिजीत. The way he talks, the things he says, and जो मैनिफेस्टो भी है, it is much more about anti-government, anti-BJP, rather than actually talking about what the voice of youth is.
Correct. So
what the youth actually wants.
I fully agree.
जैसे कांग्रेस अभी कंटिन्यू बोलता रहता है that we need 50% reservation for women. उसने भी वही पॉइंट रखा है. तो क्या वो सच में उस चीज़ के लिए काम करना चाहता है, और इज इट जस्ट द वे कांग्रेस वांट्स, जैसे कांग्रेस जैसे क्या बोलते हैं पॉलिटिक्स के लिए बोलता है, इज इट जस्ट द सेम वे, और इज इट जस्ट कि पॉलिटिक्स के लिए वो बंदा बोलना चाह रहा है कि हाँ भाई मैं ये कर दूंगा.
देखो मुझे क्या लगता है ना, अभी तो उनको खुद नहीं पता उनको क्या चाहिए. इट्स बीन 1 week एंड इन 1 week दिस पर्सन हैज दे हैव एक्सप्लोडेड टू गेट 20 million followers. I'm sure right now he's not even slept for 7 days, Abhijit, where it's just been like everybody's like, what do you want, what do you want? He does not know. He didn't start this as a movement, he started this as a meme. वो meme movement बन गया. तो उसको भी बैठ कर सोचना है. For that he needs some time. And what will help for him to actually, I would imagine, if he's of good intent, I don't know him at all, if he's of good intent and if he truly cares about the voices of the youth, what he should be doing is listen to the youth. If you want something different, you should say it. And if he's of good intent, he should listen to it. If either of these things don't happen, I can promise you, if like you don't speak, then it will be an unequivocal founder-led organization, and whatever they decide will happen. And if he does not listen, the movement will not last. Because the 20 billion people, if you are able to say this out in day 7, चाहे day 14, चाहे day 21, चाहे day 30 पर कोई ना कोई तो बोलेगा, because how much longer can you sustain only through memes? You will need to have some substance, and the substance will come through your ideas. And the ideas, ideally, for a youth-led party should come from the youth. So I would advise, and I would want that Abhijit to be listening to the youth and taking into the ideas of young people and make your manifesto like that.
That's why I said that he should come to, and if he comes to IM1, he'll get a lot of ideas.
That I fully agree with. इतने मजेदार लोग हो तुम सब, 100% अच्छे ideas.
And this is to just the organizer. Sorry, we'll take one final question.
Crying would be a sign of weakness, because although we might feel sad or there might be problems in our life, but openly expressing them is not going to help solve them, right? Instead, we should focus on performing our duties. So, what would you have to say about that?
यार देख, जब हम ये चीज़ें बोलते हैं ना, when we say boys can cry, when it's said black lives matter, you know, when we say these things, it is only to reaffirm the fact that what exists right now, the opposite is also okay. It is not to say that that should be the only truth. So it is when we are saying boys can cry, because typically and traditionally boys को बोला जाता है मत रो, you know, and typically traditionally, unfortunately, black lives in America have been oppressed and marginalized. So when you say something the opposite, it is only to say that this truth also is valid. You can, the other truth, there are many truths, and it doesn't say that some किसी और की truth is not valid. It just means that इसकी truth is valid. So if you believe in stoicism, it is not to say that, you know, if you also need to cry. It means that if at all, at any point of time, while you're being stoic, you still feel there's a certain day that happens, and life, you know, does things to people all the time. Life will always happen to everybody, right? If there's a day where you feel like crying, you shouldn't have to judge yourself. Nobody in society should be judging you because you've opened up to tears. Let me just tell you, Abhi, but such, again, I keep coming to the personal because that's the only way I can explain myself eloquently, right? When my father passed away, one day after, we kind of kept like this, you know, session where he belonged to a spiritual organization. Everyone from the organization came and kind of sat across and, you know, wanted to listen. And I couldn't stop crying. My father's gone. He had 40 days, he was in the hospital, he was fighting for his life, he couldn't make it. I couldn't stop crying. The number of people from that organization who on that day told me, don't cry, don't cry. उनकी आत्मा को शांति नहीं आएगी, वो अभी वो फंस जाएंगे, you know, it's not good for you to cry, you have to be strong, you cannot seem weak, etc, etc. At some point, I got a bit rude to everyone and said, and had to tell them, my father is dead, I am grieving for him, I want to cry in this moment. That does not make me weak, because my tears are an expression of my love. I am actually, by crying, showing my love to my father. If he is there anywhere, and if you really believe उनकी आत्मा है, उनकी आत्मा को कुछ फर्क पड़ सकता है, I believe his atma will recognize my love for him with my tears, and not the fact that I'm trying to cause his atma some pain. And after that, no one questioned. But I had to listen to it 10 times. And sometimes you have to create these boundaries, even when you are, and I'll tell you the other thing, which is just the complete opposite thing, right? When my child was born, I was constantly, you know, I would constantly tell everyone that I'm so happy to have a baby. I'm constantly so happy. I would put it online, etc, etc. Everyone would be like, इतना खुश नहीं होते, नजर लग जाती है, इतना खुश नहीं होता, इतना अपनी खुशी बयान नहीं करते, नजर लग जाती है, लोग देख लेते हैं, जज करते हैं, वगैरह वगैरह. If you can't cry when your father's dead, and you can't be happy when your daughter is born, what can you do in society? क्या अलाउड है भाई? तुम्हारी दुनिया के सबसे खुश मोमेंट पे तुम खुश नहीं हो सकते, बिकॉज पूरी सोसाइटी तुम्हें बोल रही है खुश मत हो, खुश मत हो, खुश मत हो, नजर लग जाएगी. अरे अब नहीं खुश होगा तो कब खुश होऊंगा? और इफ माई फादर इज डेड, एवरीवन सेइंग डोंट क्राई, डोंट क्राई, डोंट क्राई, समथिंग बैड विल हैपन टू हिज, आत्मा वो तो जा चुके हैं भाई, बैड ऑलरेडी हो चुका है, अब नहीं रो सकता मैं. एंड दैट इज द अनफॉर्चुनेट ट्रैप दैट वी आर इन एज अ सोसाइटी. That no matter what emotion that you express, somebody is going to judge you for it. And if you do not judge yourself, that is what we're trying to reach as a society. Forget everybody else judging you. तुम नहीं judge कर सकते अपने आप को. You should be able to feel what you want to feel. You should be able to express how you want to express. And that is what true masculinity is. That is what true feminism is. You should have the agency to be exactly who you want to be. as long as that's not harmful to society. And that's such a good time, man.
And quickly a rapid fire to close this.
Yes.
A book every young adult you'd recommend reads.
The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. Has anyone read that? Please read it. It'll change your life. It is one of the best books I've read. I recommend it to every human being, not just young people, but I think particularly for young people. John Green ki aapko fiction books pata hai. He's written one non-fiction book and now he's written two, but it is the best, I would say one of the best non-fiction books you'd ever read in your life.
Movie every young adult should watch?
I wouldn't say one movie, but I'll say every young adult should watch rom-coms. I feel like we are losing out on love in this world. Please, सबसे घटिया से घटिया rom-com भी देखो, but देखो, there should be more love and more joy in this world. That is what I believe.
Youth. When somebody says youth, what comes to mind?
Yuvaa.
When somebody says India.
Also Yuvaa. I'll tell you, can I end by saying the reason that we have named our company Yuvaa? So our company was named Yuvaa because any time when you look at political parties, there is Yuva Sena and Yuva this, Yuva that, it's always seen with a mutti. And I always believed that the country and our youth is this. I don't think they're this, I think they're this. They can be this if they want to be, that's the agency I'm talking about. But I feel like it's actually the heart.
Now it's this.
Now it's this. So, and I truly believe that our country, our India also, the youth of our country is actually a dil. It's a big beating heart, man. I feel India is the beating heart of the world. That is why Shah Rukh Khan is, unanimous.
Correct.
Because that he represents what India truly is, a beating heart. And the youth, I feel, is a beating heart. So I wanted through the usage of the word Yuva to reclaim this idea that young people can be more than anger. They can be love. And
Correct.
that is why Yuva for me is always the thing that I care about, I hope for, and I believe is going to bring more joy and kindness in this world.
And the last one that we have is IIMUN.
Honestly speaking, I would again say Yuva, but I would just say at this point of time, after especially listening to all of you, is hope. I think IIMUN is genuinely hope that I see in the world around me. It is every time I see anything from IIMUN, I'm always just so in awe and so inspired because you've been able to bring people from every part of this country together to create a better world. And I feel like this country needs IIMUN because this country needs hope.
And